Emperor of the Desert. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76. Telling lies with open eyes is a basic operation. It's okay. Qin Ren, who came back to his senses after hearing what Kuchiki said, stabilized his mentality and maintained the shape of the desert dragon lizard. At this time, because there was no base, the sand tower and the sun disk collapsed after 30 seconds, making Qin Ren's expanding vision disappear. After staring at the location of the alley for 2 seconds, Qin Ren continued to say to Kuchiki, "Let's send the wounded to the hospital." "Oh." Kuchiki nodded obediently. "But the wounded, where?" She looked around, and it seemed that there was no one around. At this time, screams and exclamations came around. One by one, students suddenly lost their balance for some reason and fell to the ground. Among those who fell to the ground with their backs on the ground, more than a dozen of them fainted directly. "Eh?" Kuchiki looked at those people in confusion. "Why, can you feel it, Mr. Izir?" "I can feel the vibration of the particles." "The chaos has appeared again." Qin Ren looked at the dozen bags of yellow sand gold coins in the system inventory and lied with his eyes open. "You got one yellow sand gold coin. You got one yellow sand gold coin. Bounty, 17 yellow sand gold coins. It seems that it is faster to attack passers-by directly, but it is a bit bad to attack strangers. It is not good to go against conscience. You got 13 yellow sand gold coins. You got 1 G-level certificate. How much is conscience worth?" "Okay, from now on, Izir Qin's conscience will be eaten by dogs." Qin Ren, who made up his mind to attack passers-by, said silently. Qin Ren, who lost his conscience, felt relieved and walked down the desert dragon lizard with an extremely relaxed pace. Then, he looked at the students around him who were knocked down by his cruelty, and then, he picked a pretty girl and prepared to put her on the back of the desert dragon lizard. However, because he is now G-level, the weight limit is 150 kg, and the weight of Kuchiki plus himself is close to 130 kilograms. It seems that adding another person is not possible. Hurry up and get 1,000 gold coins to upgrade. I want to upgrade the load capacity. The purpose of knocking others down was to find an excuse to go to the hospital where Dr. Frog was, to see the situation of Junshin, and to find a way to find the sample. But now, when he walked towards the curvy girl, Kuchiki was staring at him. The next moment, Qin Ren turned a corner and picked up a thin man with a passerby face next to the girl. It was quite easy. According to the estimated strength of G-level magic power of 150 kilograms, the attack power of 1.45 G-level is between 200 kilograms and 250 kilograms. After estimating his own strength in his mind, Qin Ren felt a sense of satisfaction, but inexplicably, he felt something was wrong. Azr, the devil muscle man with full attack power, if he could get some magic power equipment, he wouldn't have to worry about the load capacity like he does now. For 2 men, it would definitely exceed 100 kilograms. Then, 3 girls, or 3 thinner men? As he was thinking, he grabbed the pretty girl next to him. He was about to walk to the desert dragon lizard with one in each hand. Because of his discipline committee armband, no one said anything about his behavior. On the contrary, because of his desert dragon lizard and his action of carrying one person in each hand, his momentum value was rising. However, there was a problem now. That is, with so many people falling around, he could only send a few people to the hospital. Isn't it a bit low? Qin Ren, who always considered the momentum value, thought about this problem. Qin Ren put the 2 people down again. At this time, Qin Ren opened his mobile phone and turned to the directory where the model files were stored. Desert Dragon Lizard 01.mp4, Wyvern 01.mp4, Boss Dragon 01.mp4. The model file is of course not an MP4 format. The more commonly used model file formats are OGG, STL and the like. The most important problem is that he did not find software on his mobile phone that can directly view files in these formats, so he rendered it into a video. The video format is easier to observe. Originally, he wanted to make a 360 degrees panoramic video or a higher VR video. But he didn't know how to make such a video, and he had never done it before, so he could only use the old method to manually rotate the model's perspective to make a video. Fortunately, there was only a model, which was not complicated. Otherwise it would not be possible to render and compress it in one night. While feeling the increase in the speed of mana recovery, Qin Ren watched the rendering video of the two-legged flying dragon, and then the desert dragon lizard standing on the ground stood up under his control, deliberately making a very large movement to attract the attention of the people around, and then it stood up on its 2 feet, standing up with its 2 hind feet as the base point. At the moment of standing up, its feet began to become thick, and the pair of front feet began to twist and deform, forming a huge membranous wing like a bat's wing. At the very end of the wing, there are sharp spines, full of momentum. At the moment it completed its transformation, it shook its head like a living thing, and then folded and bent its 2 pairs of wings like a bat or a pterodactyl and placed them on the ground. Such a transformation, as well as its sharp edges and fierce head, made Qin Ren's momentum value rise a little more. So cool. What kind of monster is that? It's a wyvern. It must be a wyvern, a fantasy creature that often appears in European and American games. In the crowd of onlookers, a game geek explained to his friends, as long as it can increase the momentum value, it is enough, and other things are not important. Qin Ren felt the gazes of the people around him and pressed the shame caused by his second-year status to the deepest part of his heart. As for finding a reason, he has given up. If someone asks, he can say that he went to visit the leader. Although the reason of visiting a friend during patrol is a bit far-fetched, there is no other way. Then Qin Ren glanced at Kuchiki beside him. Milu, I have to go to the hospital. As for those who were knocked down by him, after they were knocked down, the others around them had already contacted the hospital and the security guards. As for the discipline committee, even though Qin Ren, the discipline committee member, had already appeared, there were still onlookers who contacted the discipline committee member. Mr. Izir, what are you going to do in the hospital? Kachiki wondered in her heart, but she didn't say it out loud, just nodded. Okay, Mr. Izir, I'll command the scene here. Although she didn't know what Mr. Izir was going to do, she had to stay and watch. Suddenly, more than a dozen people fainted. As a discipline committee member, she had to command the scene before other discipline committee members and security guards arrived. Chapter 77 I want to fly to the sky and stand shoulder to shoulder with the sun. What song is it? Qin Ren, who joined the discipline committee just to be a witness, had no sense of being a discipline committee member. He just nodded slightly in surprise when Kuchiki said she wanted to stay, and then walked to the side of the crouching desert dragon and stood on its back. The next moment, everyone present saw the tall dragon flap its wings and fly up in the dust. Qin Ren stood steadily on the back of the two-legged dragon with his hands in his pockets, expressionless, and looked very impressive. However, in fact, his real thought was, it's annoying to control the dragon to flap its wings while controlling the sand to fly up. To be honest, it's impossible for a desert dragon to fly by itself. Why? Why else? Because its wings are leaking air. Wings made of sand are not tight and leak air. They can't blow much wind at all. Moreover, after keyboard research, that is, watching the research party conduct various structural and fluid mechanics research on the conditions required for the flying dragon, simply put, a 70 kilograms flying dragon needs a wingspan of at least 8 meters to fly. However, in nature, the strength and mass of the bone structure are basically proportional. Artificially made extremely light but strong materials are basically impossible to appear in nature and in living organisms. This is also based on the fact that almost all the bones are hollow. If the bones are hollow, the strength is impossible to be strong. If the bones are hollow, it is difficult to bear a larger weight and it is difficult to bear injuries. Almost as long as you get injured once, your life will be ruined. What's more, the wings are still airtight. The desert flying dragon with a wingspan of less than 6 meters created by the Qin people is impossible to fly in reality. In fact, the whole flying dragon was lifted by him using his ability. Really flying? Not exist. However, This small two-legged flying dragon with only skin actually weighs less than 50 kilograms, 10 kilograms lighter than the desert dragon lizard just now. Qin Ren, who stepped on the back of the desert flying dragon and flew 20 meters high, looked at the ground and suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of comfort. Although it was very weak, it was still there. This feeling was very strange. Although he did not have the fear of heights that caused dizziness, nausea, and loss of appetite when standing high, as a creature that cannot fly, there are still some fears of heights that cause fear of falling because of standing high. That is, the normal fear of heights of those who often claim to be afraid of heights on the internet, but now he did not have that feeling at all. On the contrary, he felt an inexplicable sense of comfort. Is it because he flew? It seems not quite right. This sense of comfort is not because of flying, but Qin Ren raised his head and looked in the direction of the sun. From there, the sun? The moment he looked directly at the sun, he seemed to have a strange sense of intimacy in his body. Deep inside his body, there seemed to be a stream of hot air flowing, just like the feeling of entering the yellow sand space and looking at the huge sun disk. Sun disk? Sun? Where does this feeling come from? Qin Ren shifted his gaze to the system, and the blood of Shurima logo was extremely conspicuous. Needless to say, the relationship between the Shurima Empire and the Ascendants, the most powerful empire supported by a large number of ascendants. The Ascendants' ascension ceremony is to receive the power of the sun through the sun disk, and then inject it into the human body, so that people can become ascendants. Azra, Doghead, Crocodile, Zerat, and various arcanes such as Sword Demon Atrox. This feeling is really amazing. Wait a minute, not only does it feel more comfortable, Qin Ren glanced at the desert dragon under his feet. He felt that he consumed less and could control more sand. It was as if he had a comprehensive strengthening buff on his body. Although each part is very little, there is a slight increase in each aspect, and it feels a lot more when combined. Turning his gaze to the sky again, Qin Ren couldn't help but think, if it were higher, closer to the sun, how much more enhanced would it be? When this thought flashed through his mind, he also arrived at a university-affiliated hospital in the 7th school district where Dr. Frog was. The desert dragon retracted its wings and landed on the roof of the hospital building under the gaze of some people. Back off. Although no one was watching, Qin Ren still said it habitually. He said this subconsciously and dispelled the form of the desert dragon, making it dissipate into wind and sand like a phantom. The shame caused by his second-year speech did not change his face at all. So, being thick-skinned to a certain extent is also a talent. After comforting himself, Qin Ren looked around. There was no one on the roof. Let's stay here. Qin Ren raised his right hand, drew a meaningless trajectory from the lower left to the upper right, and then clenched it with great momentum. Along with the meaningless but powerful fist-clenching action, the wind and sand that had just been dissipated by the desert dragon gathered in front of Qin Ren. Mana condensed into a core, and sand attached to it. An inverted triangular cone like an inverted pyramid condensed and appeared. With the surging hot wind swirling up, the scorching sand condensed into a sun disk with complex patterns engraved on it. A wonderful feeling emerged from his heart. With the sun disk as the center, within a radius of more than 1 kilometer, all existences, whether exposed to the sun or locked in a box, or included in his field of vision. Where is it? Qin Ren scanned the entire hospital. All monitors and life entities with a certain volume appeared in his field of vision with obvious reactions. Where is Junshin, he should be with his students. After the 30-second limit was up, Qin Ren injected mana again to keep the sand tower for dozens of seconds, and Qin Ren finally found the target, Frog Doctor, Junshin, and a boy of 14 or 15 years old. Around their location, there were many instruments that looked like X-rays. No, it should be said that they looked like game cabins. Qin Ren remembered the game cabins in the Kidian online game article. These should be Junshin-kama's students, right? As long as he helps Junsai-kama find that sample, he should be able to solve this problem. However, at this time, he couldn't help but turn his eyes to the place where Junsai-kama and others were. In addition to the air suspension circuits scattered in the air, he also found something similar to what he saw when he saw the surveillance camera. In Junsai-kama's car? Could it be that? Chapter 78 Demon Pillar. Is that you? In the 23rd School District, in a huge building filled with various experimental instruments, an orange-haired man was sitting in a research room. The size of the capacity-down device is still too large, and it needs to be miniaturized, he muttered to himself while tapping his pen. The armed incompetent group is a bunch of rubbish. The test data is too slow, which has delayed the experiment. How can that bunch of rubbish make up for it? He punched the table hard and cursed a few words. At this time, the pen-capsized communicator on his desk rang. Huh? Confused for a moment, he picked up the communicator, pulled out the transparent curled screen to take a look, and then answered. What's wrong? Director Leverin, Junsai Kama's car is parked next to the University Hospital in the 7th School District. Is the 7th University Hospital the hospital where the ghost of the underworld is? The blond man was confused for a moment, and then continued. I know, you take people there. I'll be there soon. Understood, Director. The communication was then interrupted. After the call ended, he glanced at the document on the desk. Junction bail application. Humphrey, as expected. After you were released on bail, you couldn't wait to find me. You're really impatient. Junction. With a sneer, the orange-haired man grabbed a half-bomb-sized cylindrical transparent container on the table. The ability body crystal. As long as we find those sleeping abandoned children, collect the nerve transmission substances of those sleeping abandoned children, and fuse them with the initial sample, the ability body crystal will gain inhibition and eventually become a finished product. Although I'm a little unwilling, the completed ability body crystal must be used by this little kid. The orange-haired man glanced at another document below the Junction bail document on the table, with a photo of a boy pasted on it. Haruki Kenichi. As long as you can exert the ability to receive beyond your level under a specific wavelength and fuse with the ability body crystal, you will definitely become a level 6 absolute ability user. Accelerator's evolution experiment needs to be carried out, and this side can't be put aside. Muttering to himself, he left the laboratory with the initial sample of the ability body crystal. Teacher Brewery, you are being followed. Qin Ren, standing on the roof of the hospital, looked at Junsai Kama's sports car through the sun disk of the yellow sand tower, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The plot has changed a lot from the original. In the original, a girl named Chun Sheng was suspected of being the suspect of the promiscuous open incident. After a series of investigations aimed at disproving it, the incident was suspected to be related to Teacher Kama. Then, Sister Mikoto took advantage of the night to investigate and ran into Teacher Kama. Then a woman from the Anbu, Kihara clan, who was not sure whether she was the granddaughter or daughter of Kihara Junsai, followed Sister Mikoto to find the place where Teacher Kama hid the child. But now, Qin Ren, who injected mana again to keep the sand tower in shape, suddenly found that at the edge of his vision, 3 vehicles of the same model similar to the security vehicles were approaching quickly, and sitting in the car were several armed units wearing mecha armor and an orange-haired man. Sure enough, they are here. I just don't know if the woman from the Anbu, Kihara clan, has come. That sample should be in the other party's hands. Inform Mr. Kamen to move. It seems too late now. When he found the other party was driving along the road quickly, and it would take less than 2 minutes to reach the hospital entrance. It seems useless to inform him now. Can it prevent Mr. Kama from being arrested? No. In the animation, they just took Mr. Kama's students away, but did not arrest anyone. Let's block them first. Qin Ren frowned slightly, relying on the vision provided by the sun disk, and took action. Let's use this. Sure enough, the consumption has increased after being stained with ink, but it's still acceptable. In the hospital, now Kihara Junsai's whereabouts are unknown. It's still difficult to find information. Ming to Chasing Soul said. Just when he was about to say something else, he stopped talking, because, at this time, he saw a piece of paper flying in. Then it flew in front of Junsai. Junsai grabbed the floating paper in front of him with some confusion. Is this case? This paper is the patient's file. Why did it fly in? After a moment of confusion, he saw the brand new ink marks on the paper. There is surveillance on your car. English. Seeing the words above, Junshin Kama was startled. and his lifeless and tired eyes were instantly filled with panic and anger. "Doctor, I'm glad you understand." After warning Junshin, Qin Ren maintained the vision brought by the sun disk while preparing to interfere with the aggressive vehicle. How to interfere with a moving vehicle? Directly condense a giant beast to block the car? Definitely can't do that. Then, damage the car? How to damage it? Car? Gear? Stuff sand into the gear? Which gear will cause the car to malfunction if sand is stuffed into it? No matter what, wouldn't it be better to stuff sand into each gear? Qin Ren, who didn't understand the structure of the car, directly chose the simplest and crudest method. After making up his mind, the Qin people started to operate while maintaining the sand tower to provide vision. No one noticed that on the road below the three vehicles carrying the members of the advanced rescue team, countless particles suddenly surged under an inexplicable force, drilling into the cracks under the chassis of the car and into the gaps between every delicate component. Whether it was the engine, differential or any other delicate component, the Qin people who had no knowledge of mechanical structure roughly stuffed sand into each component. In an instant, the transmission structure of the three vehicles broke down, and the combustible particles such as sawdust mixed in the countless particles caught fire when they approached the high-temperature part inside the vehicle. The interior of the three vehicles caught fire directly, and the four tires of the other two vehicles were directly locked because of the obstruction of the transmission structure. Even the engine of one of the vehicles exploded directly, lifting the entire hood directly. After the explosion, the driver of the vehicle immediately realized that something was wrong when the airbag popped out, and quickly unbuckled his seat belt and escaped. "What's going on, Hikitsuno?" In response, he was greeted by explosions and the hood flying off. Boom. Director Ren, the car driven by Hikitsuno exploded and caught fire. "There's a problem with our car." "You guys have a problem too?" "We have a problem here too." Chapter 79. When discussing gender transformation, we still have to mention Type Moon. "Captain Ren, get out of the car." Amid the panic and urgent urging, all the members of the advanced rescue team escaped from the car. A member of the advanced rescue team opened the hood of a car, but because it was on fire, he could not see any problems. At this time, the orange-haired man who was called the director frowned. "Three cars caught fire at the same time? Are you kidding?" He immediately took out the communicator and dialed the number. "I am Terikihara Ren. Bring the AIM force field detection device immediately." The orange-haired man shouted into the communicator with an angry face. After cursing a few words, he turned off the communicator, looked at the 9 team members around him, and shouted, "What are you still standing there for? Hurry over." This must be something that Junsuke had done. Thinking of his purpose and contacting people who might obstruct his actions, Ren immediately locked his target on Junsuke. It must be someone related to him who did it. At this moment, the first car among the 3 cars that caught fire and had its hood blown off suddenly exploded violently. A violent roar and vibration were heard at the same time, and the scorching air wave knocked over 3 of the 9 members of the advanced rescue team, who were moving away from the car, flying half a meter away. The remaining 6 were far away and were just scared. The director, Terikihara Ren, was also blown away by the explosion, and a piece of metal fragment flew out of the explosion and hit his thigh. He fainted with a scream. "This consumes mana." Qin Ren, who was standing on the top of the hospital, looked at his mana that was only 20% left, and sighed in his heart while keeping his hands in his pockets. "This should buy a lot of time." "Huh? What is that?" In the diffused field of vision, he saw something flying out of the orange-haired man's pocket. A cylindrical transparent container the size of half a palm, with something similar to a crystal in the middle. "Crystal? Body crystal? Anyway, take it away first." Thinking of the situation, he took action. The quicksand surged, wrapped up the transparent container, and then flew into the sky. After turning a few corners in the air, the transparent container wrapped in sand flew in through the window of the hospital and was thrown next to Junshin Mushan. "Although I don't know what it is, just give it to Mr. Mushan directly, just in case it helps." After throwing the thing to Junshin Mushan, who looked confused, Qin Ren began to prepare for the follow-up work, clearing the sand in the exploded car. Although Qin Ren is not particularly smart, he still knows how to deal with such things. However, the mana consumption at this distance is really high. When can I collect 1,000 gold coins? While operating, he used his will to control the sand that he stuffed into the 3 security cars. Fortunately, because of the explosion, most of the sand was blown out, and the combustible particles such as sawdust were almost burned out in the explosion. Compared with the mana consumed when stuffing sand, the mana consumed when dealing with traces is much less. At this moment, he was suddenly stunned, because there were 2 F-level yellow sandbags in his inventory. F-level? Those armed people who look like guards? With doubt, Qin Ren opened the yellow sandbag. You got 13 yellow sand gold coins. You got 1 G-level certificate. You got 1 yellow sand gold coin. Oh, you give me 1 of 10. After complaining about his luck, Qin Ren glanced at the remaining mana and dispersed the sand tower. Take a break and see what's going on. With the current 41% momentum value, it only takes 5 or 6 minutes to restore the mana. When Qin Ren began to rest, Mushan Junsheng, who had just urgently transferred the children under the cover of the underworld soul chaser, looked at the strange cylindrical transparent container in his hand and the orange-yellow crystal in it, and his eyes, which were tired from staying up late for a long time, showed doubt. Doctor, what is this thing? I don't know. The frog face of the underworld soul chaser also showed a puzzled expression. It needs to be tested, but it looks like. The soul of Hell looked at the container in Junsai Kama's hand and the crystal in it, and touched his chin. It looks a bit like an unprocessed body crystal. Body crystal? It's the abbreviation of the ability body crystal. When Kihara Gensai published the results of the experiment before, the body crystal he showed was such a crystal. The soul of Hell looked at Junsai Kama and said, let's check it first. Teacher Kama, how did you get this thing? The young man Harukami Kinichi next to him asked with some confusion. I don't know, it suddenly flew into my hand, just like the paper just now. Junsai Kama said with a little confusion. There is no doubt that these things were sent by someone. But who is it? I don't know who it is. But since he can move different things, he should be a telekinetic ability user. According to the current situation, it should be an insider who knows about the experiment or participated in the experiment, but because of his identity, he is worried that there will be safety problems if his identity is exposed, so he did not reveal his identity. The soul of Hell speculated. Yeah, Kama Junsai also nodded. Since the other party did this, we don't need to investigate in detail, then I'll go test it first. The soul chaser took the things from Kama Junsai. By the way, the rescue team's car exploded just now. Several members were injured and sent to the hospital. Be careful not to meet them. They have the documents to transfer these children. I can deal with them, but if they meet you and find these children, I can only compromise. I understand, Doctor. Kama Junsai nodded and watched the soul chaser leave. Director Leverin, what should we do? We didn't find them in the hospital. Waste. All waste. Terikihara Leverin, an orange-haired man with bandages on his face and legs, sat on the hospital bed and cursed a few words. At this time, he suddenly turned his head and looked at the door. Being in a bad mood will affect the recovery of the wound. The ghost chaser came in with the medical record. Do you feel any discomfort elsewhere? No. Terikihara Leverin, Qin Ren, whose mana had been restored, also knew the name of the orange-haired man through the name on the medical report, but he did not recognize the name. When he saw the name, the first thing he thought of was Deputy Director Leaf in FGO. Speaking of which, there are more gender-swapped characters in FGO. Chapter 80. Eat ice cream and win a prize to travel. Who is it? Is there such a person in the Kihara clan? Qin Ren pondered in confusion. Oh right, who is that? The scumbag who was called a villain? Gender change? Because he didn't have a deep impression of this character, he couldn't remember it for a while. If it weren't for the fact that the current events were chaotic and open, and the name had Kihara, he might not have been able to associate it. If he saw this name during the LV6 Absolute Ability Plan, or in some other event, he would not have associated it with the woman who was called a scumbag and was not sure whether she was Kihara Gensai's daughter or granddaughter. Did even the scumbag change his gender? In the original work, Kihara Gensai is basically a complete villain. and is collectively called a scumbag. In the original plot of the animation, his granddaughter or daughter is also a villain, and is also called a scumbag. What should he do next? He just wanted to stop the advanced rescue team and buy time for Mr. Kama to transfer students. Who knew the person he attacked was actually one of the culprits? In the plot, it was after a series of conflicts that the sample was obtained from the scumbag. After his intervention, will he be unable to obtain it? What should he do? Qin Ren was a little worried. Oh, wait a minute, since the person who was defeated was the scumbag, the sample should also be in his hands. Then, is the container just taken the original sample? The current situation is a bit problematic. Forget it. Let's ignore this for now. The bridge will naturally straighten itself when it reaches the bow. Qin Ren, who had no idea of a solution, chose to avoid the problem directly. Turning his head to look at the sand tower, Qin Ren thought for a while, what lines should be used when dispersing the yellow sand tower? Qin Ren only now realized how difficult it is to choose a good line. My empire exists in every grain of sand. It is obviously not suitable to be used when the yellow sand tower falls. The heritage of Shurima will continue. This sentence, the name of the yellow sand tower is the heritage of Shurima, and this sentence should be quite appropriate. But it didn't seem to have enough momentum. It sounded like the sentence that said when he died, firmly believing that Shurima would be passed on. You don't need to follow, but you must witness. This sentence should be used when building the yellow sand tower. What line should be used? Then it's time to show real skills. It didn't seem right. It's better to use dust to dust, ashes to ashes. After that, Qin Ren went everywhere to find the site of the absolute ability plant experiment, trying to interfere with the process and prevent Misaka from being killed. However, he searched around and didn't find it. Instead, he entered the territory where the armed incompetent group was located. After knocking down more than 20 people and getting more than 30 gold coins, he returned to the dormitory. When he returned to the dormitory at around 10 o'clock in the evening, he saw a pair of hedgehog heads standing at the door. Hello, leader, and the leader's sister. Hello, Izir. Hello. Kamijumaki also nodded, but her answer made Kamiju look at him with doubt. Compared to himself, who didn't care at all, his sister obviously cared about this title. Why didn't she react this time? Because she had just been discharged from the hospital and her injuries hadn't fully healed yet, so she didn't have the energy to complain. The young Kamiju boy couldn't help but ponder in his heart. So, are you okay? Qin Ren glanced at the leader's expression. The leader's sister, if you keep going like this, you'll be exposed. Speaking of which, it's a bit weird to always call the leader's sister, so why not change the title? Kamiju sister? Kamiju sister? Compared to sister-type characters, he prefers sister-type characters. That's right, he is what people generally call a sister control. The title, of course, is based on his preference. Kamijo sister, come here. After saying that, he went upstairs. Kamijo sister? Kamijutma was also stunned when he heard the new title, then blinked and glanced at Kamijumaki. Oh, by the way, speaking of which, Izir seems to be underage, although no matter how you look at it, she looks like an adult of about 30 years old. Kamijutma yawned, then Izir, Maki-sama, I'm going to sleep first. After saying that, he turned and walked into the dormitory, and glanced at Index, who was clinging to the door frame. Hey, Index, why don't you go to bed? I'm hungry. Putting aside the flirting between the leader and the foodie nun, after hearing what Qin Ren said, Kamijumaki followed him up to the 8th floor. What's wrong, Izir? Standing on the transfer half floor where the upper and lower corridors connected, Kamijumaki asked with some confusion. You're about to be exposed. Qin Ren glanced at her left hand. Speaking of which, Academy City now has 2 Imagine killers. How will the big bald man use them? According to the original work, he knew the events that happened in the legendary A Certain Scientific Railgun basically did not involve the leader. Only major events that affect the world, or minor events related to Index, will be solved by the leader. No, should we add related to magic, like what he has experienced recently? Only the memory event of Index and the absolute power plan will be involved by the leader. The leader and his siblings should not participate in random and open things, So the clone incident and the absolute power plan will definitely be involved like in the original work, right? Anyway, the big bald guy wants to disperse the Misaka clones all over the world. If he interrupts the plan earlier, he should not be killed by the big bald guy, right? Speaking of which, how should we induce the leader and his siblings to run into the experimental site? Show up directly at the scene and call the leader and his siblings over? No. Will it be dangerous to show up directly at the scene? Then call the leader and his siblings around the scene, and let them pass by the experimental site when they go to the appointment. Well, this method is not bad, it's decided. Maki Kamiju was still a little nervous because of Qin Ren's words. You're exposed. Izil, have Tma and the others really found out? They should be suspicious. Qin Ren glanced at her. Your acting needs to be better. Maki Kamiju took a deep breath. I understand. She didn't want to worry Tma and Index. You are the lucky girl who can get a 7-day trip to Hokkaido by eating an ice cream. Good luck to you. Yeah. Maki Kamiju clenched her fists tightly, ran down the stairs in 2 or 3 steps, and disappeared from Qin Ren's sight. Qin Ren stared at the corridor where Maki Kamiju had disappeared for 2 seconds, then turned around and returned to his dormitory. Thanks to the book friend for the reward of 100 Kidian coins. Chapter 81. Think of a cool name for your move. However, when he came to the 8th floor and habitually checked the sand at the door of his room and in the room for any abnormalities, his brows could not help but frown. Who else sneaked into my room? Being monitored by the big bald guy is fine, but he is monitoring the entire Academy City indiscriminately, and he is the top boss. After pressing the words, the most important reason is that I can't beat him to the bottom of his heart. Qin Ren raised his wrist calmly. Show up. My stand. Speaking of which, although the term stand is quite second year, it doesn't seem to have enough momentum. Are there any domineering names for ancient stand-ins? Oh, right. Shadow warrior. Fake body. Show up. My fake body. So shameful. So shameful. After carrying out the shameful punishment on himself and his heart, the surging quicksand rolled in front of him and formed a person with the same appearance and outline as Qin Ren. And Qin Ren himself. The quicksand wrapped his body, and the armor of the yellow sand soldier was put on him. Ancient emperors all had a habit of finding a substitute. Since there are popular curses such as piercing a villain and lowering one's head, there is also a saying that a substitute can be ordained as a monk, so that the substitute who bears all kinds of grievances can eliminate the grievances. Of course, this is just a self-righteous psychological sustenance, just one kind of substitute commonly used in ancient times, the substitute monk. The real function of the substitute is, of course, to die in place of death. Find a person who looks like you and dresses like you as a scapegoat. That is the so-called shadow warrior. Although there is a resurrection armor, who would really die once just because of the resurrection armor whose effect has not been confirmed. When it has not been confirmed that the resurrection armor can really bring him back to life, he will not foolishly take risks. However, Qin Ren, who turned into a yellow sand soldier, looked at the substitutes in front of him. The color is not right. Maybe he should choose sand of the right color. While he was struggling with what method to use to better increase his momentum, the door of his room suddenly opened. A voice rang out. I say, Izil, how long are you going to stand at the door? Now that you've spotted me, hurry in. Meow. Blonde long hair, exaggerated Hawaiian beach-style floral dress, and this Meow's habit of speaking such the Mikado hearing his words, Qin Ren just remembered why he didn't just erect the yellow sand tower to open up his vision. Although his emotions were fluctuating, his face hidden under the yellow sand soldier's armor remained calm. Dust to dust, earth to earth, the sand substitute he created dissipated into wind and sand like a phantom, and the yellow sand armor on his body also dissipated with it. Oh, not bad. You actually use this method to avoid danger, but you need to put a mask on him and put on clothes. A smile appeared on Tsuta Mikado Sanaharu's beautiful face. Clothes made of sand will leak air. Meow in her heart. She was a little surprised. So that's it. Although you can sense someone, you can't tell who the target is? Qin Ren didn't know that because he was distracted in preparing lines for show-off, he forgot to build the yellow sand tower, which would be misunderstood by Tsuta Mikado Sanaharu. After knowing that it was Tsutamikado Sanaharu who entered his room, Qin Ren followed her into the room. "So, Tsutamikado, what do you want me to do?" "Of course I have to take action." Tsutamikado Sanaharu's voice was frivolous and seductive. If it was some ordinary man, the deliberately floating voice would probably cause problems. It had no effect on Qin Ren. As an old driver, he had heard more seductive voices than this one. As an old driver who has experienced many battles, he has unlocked half of the illustrated book in his mind, let alone the seductive voice. Even the fancy moans, Qin Ren has heard countless of them. Forget it. This is not important. What is important is that Qin Ren has completely equated her with the nouveau riche young and dangerous boy in the original book. The other party's seductive voice only makes him think of a young and dangerous boy wearing glasses and deliberately acting coquettish. What kind of scene is that? Glancing up and down at Qin Ren, Taguro Sanaharu couldn't help but sigh. "Izil, are you really a homosexual?" Qin Ren was confused. Why did he suddenly bring up this? Forget it. This is the first action of our group since its establishment. Oh, Qin Ren nodded. Speaking of the group, although the Anbu nominally belongs to the Unified Council, and the Unified Council also knows the existence of the group, in the original book, it seems that only Taguro knows who the group's superior is, and the others only have an impression of the upper level who directly manages them, a man who is contacted through a mysterious phone. Qin Ren naturally knew who the mysterious man on the phone was. But where are the other team members? Uncle Fang will join the Anbu only after the absolute power user experiment. So what about Taoki Yuzuki? What about Taizari? What team member? Tsutamikado Sanaharu's beautiful face showed confusion, and then she patted her head in realization. "I'm so careless, I forgot to tell you that now there are only 2 of us in our group." "Group what?" Qin Ren's eyes widened a little. Didn't Taoki Yuzuki and Taizari join the group at this time? Then when did they join the group? Aoki Yuzuki is the leader, and like Tsutamikado, she often comes into contact with the big bald guy. Logically, she should have joined when the group was established, right? Even if not, it should have been a long time ago. Now the absolute power user plan is almost ready to be destroyed by the leader and others. Why is Tsutamikado the only one left? Each organization usually has 4 main members, and each of the main members is basically a person with abilities above level 3. Behind the 4 people, there is a huge number of personnel supporting them, such as logistics support, hiding evidence, etc. Our group has just been established, and we have not yet recruited suitable members, nor have we taken any formal actions. And today, it's our first action. Meow. As he said that, Tsutamikado smiled. If the other team members you are talking about are logistics support, they will not contact us when there is no action. If you are talking about the main members, then, Tsutamikado Sanaharu smiled brightly, there are only 2 of us. There are only 2 people. Why are you smiling so happily? Is there anything worth being happy about having only 2 people? Qin Ren's face remained unchanged with helplessness in his heart. It's just to understand the level of combat power we have, so as to plan the action correctly. That's right, that's what I mean. Qin Ren regarded the reason he came up with temporarily as his real reason. I see, you are such a calm person, so you should have such thoughts. Not only do you have the same unidentified raw stone ability as the 7th one, but your brain is also valued. Meow? Although it is a happy thing to be praised by others, why does it feel like the person being praised is not him? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82. When did Endermion become involved with the Absolute Ability Project? Confusing in his heart, Qin Ren habitually leaned against the wall, lowered his head slightly, crossed his arms, and after posing, he whispered, "Tsutamikado, what is your ability?" Of course, he knew very well that Tsutamikado's ability was level 0 physical regeneration, and he was originally a top-level yin-yang doctor. Although he didn't know what the top-level yin-yang doctor was, He was still clear about the fact that he Yin Yang played a trick on the bald man in the original work and almost killed him. My ability? Such the Mikado Sanaharu lowered his head slightly. His eyes shot out from above his sunglasses. With a smile in her eyes, she said, Level 0 physical regeneration, that's all? Of course. Do you think I will believe it? Qin Ren still had no expression on his face, but his narrowed eyes and deep voice made him look more dignified. Of course not. Such the Mikado Sanaharu still had a smile on her face. She raised her head again, and the two plump breasts that were revealed by the action of lowering her head were covered by clothes. Similarly, I don't think that the limited weight 100 kilograms to 115 kilograms apostrophe and limited distance 150 meters apostrophe written on your information in the library are true. The smile on her face and the content of her words made Qin Ren feel dignified. Of course, what was recorded in the library was not his limit. His current limit was 150 kilograms. The limit distance for operating sand? In a sense, it can be said to be infinite. However, the consumption that increases with the increase in distance makes this infinity not so certain. With the same consumption of mana as the control variable, he can make the sand use the power of G plus G at the closest distance. At the attack range limit of 525 yards, his sand only has 0 plus G power, as the distance decreases. More importantly, because of the lack of vision, it is difficult for him to operate the sand outside of his sight. The way he operates the sand is to use vague instructions of his mind. The vague instructions and the inability to see the target make it too difficult to operate carefully. Although he does not hide it at ordinary times, he rarely uses abilities that exceed those recorded in the library, so it can be detected. He is worthy of being a double agent on the magic side and the science side, and worthy of being known as the Big Three. No, woman? So, what should we do now? Qin Ren skipped the topic directly, and such the Mikado Sanaharu certainly did not intend to continue to pursue the matter, and said, recover the satellite debris. What? Satellite debris? Index is Dragon King's mouth cannon before. That angle can also hit the tree diagram designer? Impossible? It should be impossible to hit at that angle, right? Yes. The tree diagram designer was destroyed by unknown energy yesterday, such the Mikado Sanaharu replied. Yesterday? Come on, I'll drive myself. Such the Mikado Sanaharu, who was sitting on the roof of the car, said with a smile, this scene looks like a rich woman supporting a gigolo. After complaining in his heart, Qin Ren sat in the passenger seat of the black car with an expressionless face. Eh? Shouldn't a man drive at this time? Such the Mikado Sanaharu's pretentious and coquettish voice, who had not yet sat in the driver's seat, reached Qin Ren's ears. Damn it, I have goosebumps all over my body. If you, a gangster in a flowery shirt, speak in this voice again, I'm going to smash your balls. No, such the Mikado no longer has this equipment. What about smashing? Chest. Qin Ren, who had all kinds of thoughts in his mind, thought about it and finally said, I don't know where the destination is. And Qin Ren stretched his hand out of the window, and countless quicksand rolled, forming a desert flying dragon. At that time, the movements of shaking its neck, flapping its wings, and swinging its tail from time to time made it look like a living thing. If I want to go somewhere, it's faster to ride the desert dragon. Desert dragon? Such the Mikado Sanaharu's eyes were on the suddenly appeared dragon, which was sandy yellow in color and looked like a fantasy creature that he had never seen before even with his knowledge of magic. The tall body was covered with sandy yellow, like a hard cuticle, and the ferocious barbs extended from the tail to the front. The moment she looked at the dragon turned its head, and the pair of vertical pupils made of countless broken glass particles reflected the dim light, and also met her sight. In an instant, the desert dragon opened its mouth and headed towards her. Nearly 100 sharp fangs formed by the accumulation of sand grains seemed to want to bite her head to pieces. Such the Mikado subconsciously took a step back, and his right hand, which was against the bag, tightly grasped the origami inside, and was about to cast magic. However, at this moment, the dragon's body suddenly collapsed. Qin Ren looked at her expressionlessly and lowered his voice. It seems that it has a lot of opinions about you. What do you mean by opinions? This flying dragon was completely condensed by him. What opinions does it have? They are all his opinions. He controlled all the movements throughout the process. But his words made such the Mikoto Sanaharu narrow his eyes. In other words, the winged lizard just now has self-awareness, just like Steel's witch-hunting king. Is this really a superpower? There are about 50 people with the ability of the original stone in the world. There are really many mysteries. Many thoughts emerged in her mind, but such the Mikoto Sanaharu still had that exaggerated smile on her face that was not sure whether it was true or false. Then, let's set off now. We will reach our destination soon. After saying that, she sat in the main driver's seat. Why was the tree diagram designer shut down? Qin Ren asked indifferently while sitting in the car. He was very confused. According to the original work, shouldn't the tree diagram designer be shot down by Index using the Dragon King's Sai? The incident some time ago was resolved with the joint efforts of the leader's siblings, and Index's mouth cannon did not attack the tree diagram designer. But was it the bald guy who did it? According to the bald guy's plan, the destruction of the tree diagram designer should be to let the absolute ability plan be destroyed, and then let the cloned Mysikas be taken to various places to adjust their bodies. Magic. The tree diagram designer was shot down by magic. Qin Ren, who knew her relationship with Steel and Zhuo Lishen, did not laugh, but said directly, and the source of the magic was on the space elevator Endymion that has not been fully built. Someone used magic there to destroy the tree diagram designer. The suspect has not been found yet. After turning the steering wheel and turning a corner, such the Mikoto Sanaharu continued, the shot-down tree diagram designer fell not far outside the Academy City. Chapter 83. Driving is good, but don't race. Although a search team has been sent out, an external organization has been discovered. There is no doubt that they are coveting the high-performance computers manufactured by Academy City, which are 20 to 30 years more technologically advanced than the outside world. After turning the steering wheel and drifting again, Tsuchiya Sanaharu continued, moreover, the tree diagram design art contains a lot of confidential information, not to mention the troops of Japan. Even if troops from countries like the United States, Russia, Britain, and China appear, it is not impossible. Tsuchiya Sanaharu calmly recounted the current situation. There is also a group of people inside Academy City who have colluded with external forces, otherwise the fact that the tree diagram designer was shot down would not have been known so quickly. Meow. It is obvious that those forces gathered not after they discovered that the tree diagram designer had landed in Academy City, but shortly after Academy City discovered that the tree diagram designer had lost contact. And according to the monitoring of the surveillance satellite above Academy City, they received the news that the tree diagram designer had landed near Academy City, and they had already gathered. So, are we going to rush outside Academy City now? Qin Ren asked. No, the search for satellite debris that fell near Academy City has ended. The only thing left is the satellite debris still floating in space. The search team sent by Academy City has found the satellite debris and will enter Academy City in half an hour. Our current action is to rush to the transportation route of the satellite debris transporter, provide protection during the transportation process, and catch the spies hiding in Academy City who provide intelligence to external forces or betrayers who betrayed Academy City. It's really stupid. Academy City has long known about the existence of spies. When Tsuchiya Mikoto Sanaharu talked about spies, his face did not change at all, and even his tone was flat, as if he was not a spy at all. Qin Ren was also very impressed by her calm expression when she talked about spies from a third-person perspective. To be honest, he really wanted to learn this kind of acting from her. That is to say, Qin Ren leaned back in his seat, keeping his tone calm and indifferent. We are just a backup protection. If no spies or other forces appear, we just watch. Of course. Tsuchiya Mikoto Sanaharu suddenly turned the steering wheel to avoid an oncoming car, stepped on the accelerator and accelerated amid the other party's scolding. But it is impossible that there will be no one to snatch the satellite wreckage. The top leaders of Academy City, this time we must find as many spies and traitorous forces as possible, and for this reason, they have deliberately leaked the deployment of the guards. With so much intelligence in hand, if those people don't take action, they really have no chance. In the high-speed car, Such the Mikado's voice reached Qin Ren's ears. It's really insidious, luring you into a trap or something. This group of old swindlers, the western part of Academy City. This is the 17th school district. It's very spacious, right? Such the Mikado Sanaharu stopped the car and said to Qin Ren beside him. Qin Ren is now just covering his head, with a depressed look on his face. At this time, he was not in the mood to care about the momentum value. This crazy woman actually drove at a speed of 200 miles per hour, which is more than 300 kilometers per hour! Oh my god! He finally understood the meaning of the sentence in Uncle Benshan's sketch. It's not driving too fast, but flying too low. Well, such the Mikoto Sanaharu smiled and laughed heartlessly. In order to get here in 20 minutes, you have to drive faster. I think you should think about how to deal with the ticket later. Driving at a speed of 300 kilometers per hour in the city, he felt that his resurrection armor might be effective here for the first time. This is more thrilling than a roller coaster and a bungee jumping machine. No. Now that he can fly on the sand, riding a roller coaster and a bungee jumping machine is not as thrilling as this. After hearing what Qin Ren said, such the Mikoto Sanaharu smiled on his beautiful and fair face. Don't forget who we are. Running a red light and speeding are fine as long as nothing goes wrong. Meow. That's a problem. Whether it's running a red light or speeding, it's dangerous. You should think about other people. In his previous life, Qin Ren was almost hit by a car that ran a red light and exceeded the speed limit several times. Forget it. The important thing now is the transportation of satellite debris. How long will it take for the transport vehicle to get here? Looking at the momentum value that had dropped to 15%, Qin Ren took a deep breath, put his hands in his pockets, and returned to his usual state. Then, he raised his arm, and the quicksand rolled up the dust, forming a sandstorm. Then, the sun disk floated on the inverted yellow sand pyramid, and the yellow sand tower inherited from Shurima rose from the ground, and such the Mikado Sanaharu next to him. When Qin Ren raised his hand, he focused his mind on Qin Ren's every move. Such the Mikado, who was sensing the whole process, did not feel any magic from the Qin people's actions just now. Want to build such a tower? It should require complicated rituals. If it is magic, from the surface, this ritual is absolutely earth-attributed. This strange pattern, judging from the style, should be related to Egypt. The base of the tower is undoubtedly an inverted pyramid, and the disk with strange patterns may be an extraction of the concept of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, or the sun disk on the head of Horus, the sun god in Egyptian mythology, or the symbol of Phoebus, the sun god in Roman mythology. The soldiers that Izir made before are very similar to the costumes of Roman soldiers. However, the concept of using sand to shape soldiers does not exist in Roman mythology. It may be the concept of terracotta warriors buried with ancient Chinese emperors, but it is more likely that in Egyptian mythology, people believe that the pharaoh who was mummified will return one day. And the strange pattern, although there is no existing style, is closer to the Egyptian magic formula. In general, it is more like a combination of various Egyptian mythological concepts. If it is a formula, as an imaginary enemy, the object of solving the problem is the caster himself, who may have referred to the concept of pharaoh. However, Tano Sanaharu's doubtful eyes came out of the sunglasses and shot at Qin Ren and the yellow sand tower beside him. This is definitely not a formula. Although she is not proficient in Western magic, she still knows a lot of basic magic knowledge from all over the world during her stay in the Church of Necessary Evil in Britain. It is certain that this tower and the strange disk are related to Egypt, but they are not magic. Izir is just a rough stone. Chapter 84. Chinese New Year is a confusing day. Even the original stone that Academy City could not fully analyze possessed strange, unidentifiable powers. But it was still a superpower after all. This tower and the condensed soldiers should have been shaped by Izir himself. Did he like Egyptian things so much? However, there was another problem: self-will. It was observed before that those soldiers would kneel down and bid farewell to Izir respectfully before dissipating. The dragon just now also reacted to her sight and almost attacked. At least, it was like a puppet golem, with a mechanism to respond to the outside world. It was more likely to have self-will. As a double agent of Academy City and the British Puritan Church, Such the Mikoto Sanaharu analyzed it subconsciously. Then, she glanced at Qin Ren and asked in a joking tone, "Izil, what is the use of this thing? Is it like a security robot that will issue a sound of warning? Or warning when there is danger?" "Meow, it can transmit my power," Qin Ren replied expressionlessly. He had never concealed the fact that the tower could release power, and he had used it many times as a common means of attack. What he had hidden was the increased field of vision brought to him by the abnormal true field of vision of the Yellow Sand Tower. "Haven't you seen it several times?" While answering, he observed all the scenery within a radius of 1 kilometer with an extremely careful diffuse perspective. Whether it was the patrol security guards who were lazy and sleeping in the company, or the students who used their abilities to pass through the security system and enter the factory to steal things, or the couples who used optical invisibility to openly have sex on the street. "Wait a minute, this is too exciting. Is this how to play?" "Well, both the man and the woman are not good looking, the posture is too monotonous, and the movements are not relaxed." After taking a closer look and commenting a few words in his mind, Qin Ren continued to scan the surrounding situation. This is the 17th School District, located in the western suburbs of the Academy City. It is a wide industrial area, mostly unmanned automatic factories, and many people, including the guards, are extremely sparse. The 17th District is the industrial zone of the Academy City, where the experimental products developed by the Academy City can be commercialized. Unlike the small factories on the streets that look like rented warehouses, the industrial factories in the 17th District are all tall industrial buildings without windows, which are planned in an unusually neat manner. Those who claim to have obsessive-compulsive disorder every day will probably like this place very much. After complaining in his heart, Qin Ren memorized the surrounding terrain. At this time, the Mikoto Sanaharu suddenly glanced at his mobile phone, then smiled and said, "Get ready, Izil, the car is coming." Meow. In the quiet night, there was no sound at all, and the automatic factory that was still running did not make any sound because of its good sound insulation performance. In the suburbs of the Academy City, which had no sense of life at all, 3 transport vehicles passed the boundary of the Academy City built by high walls in a triangular formation. In front and behind the 3 transport vehicles, more than a dozen vehicles carrying security guards and armed robots followed. With such tight security, it's going to be difficult to take away the satellite debris. Meow. Looking at the armed vehicles and another batch of armed vehicles waiting near the gate, Qin Ren couldn't help but say, even without building the Yellow Sand Tower, Qin Ren could see the existence of armed personnel and armed robots around the guards' vehicles. How can the satellite debris be taken away from such tight security? Hearing his words, the Mikoto Sanaharu beside him chuckled, "Izil, don't forget what Academy City is researching. Superpowers." Qin Ren also reacted to her words. Academy City has all kinds of bizarre and strange people with special abilities, such as people who can eliminate their own sense of existence in the cognition of others, people with special abilities in the optical operation system, and yes, there is also Yunky. Speaking of which, who was the red-haired man who took him to see the big bald man when he came to Academy City? Was it Yunky? At this time, he saw such a Mikoto Sanaharu beside him taking out a mobile phone from his bag, and the mobile phone seemed to have received some information. "Fish, you've taken the bait." Meow. As she said this, she looked at Qin Ren with a smile on her face, but she didn't know if it was an illusion. But he seemed to deliberately move a few steps away from her. Probably not. On the other side, above a factory in District 17, a red-haired man moved the military binoculars in his hand away from his eyes, squinted his eyes, and looked in the direction of the door card in a low voice. At this time, a voice came from behind him. "How is it? Is there any way to move the door through space and transfer the things out of it?" "No, I can't move objects alone. If I want to move objects, all objects within the volume of 2m×2m×2m will be moved. There must be some alarm device in the car. I can't do it now." The red-haired man was stunned when he heard the voice, and then replied without turning his head, "Besides, my ability distance is only 200 meters. TSK. It is because of this ability defect that you, as one of the guides, will gradually be replaced by Aoki Yoki and lose your job. Along with the frivolous voice, a female voice sounded. I really have to thank her, otherwise, you would not accept my commission for money and come to intercept. Hearing this, the red-haired man's face sank. It's you who controlled me, Shokumisaki. Do you think I am Shokumisaki? As the voice sounded, a mature black-haired woman who looked nearly 30 years old appeared in front of the red-haired man. She was wearing a salesperson's uniform and looked like a female clerk in a supermarket. In anyone's opinion, she would have nothing to do with Shokumisaki. However, Monk Miyake would never think so. He would agree to a deal that was completely inconsistent with his personality, and there was a slightly inconsistent memory. As someone who often deals with the Enbu and one of the guides, he still knows a lot about the 7 level 5s in Academy City. This weird tone and the inconsistency of his own memory made it obvious that the person in front of him was a psychological controller, and he was definitely affected by the other party's ability. However, he had no way to solve it now, and could only believe the information that Shokumisaki felt disgusted by reading the memory of others at will. Try not to resist and find a chance to break free. Taking a deep breath, Monk Miyake turned his head and whispered, I will do what you say. P.S. The new year is coming soon, and this time of year is the most entangled time. I have no idea what to buy when I go home. I live in Hangzhou. What specialties, food, can I bring back for the new year in Jiangsu, Zhejiang and Shanghai? Please give me some suggestions. Chapter 85 Finale. Fog. What a pity, the people didn't come from my side, but approached the transport vehicle from your position. Izil, an armed force is coming to you. There may be capable people in it. You have to be careful. The voice of Tsuchimikato Sanaharu came from the wireless communicator hanging beside Qin Ren's ear. To be honest, there is a possibility of attack until the transport vehicle reaches the 23rd school district. It takes so long to be on guard. It's really troublesome. Meow, you are so annoying all day long. If you hear too much of the habit of speaking, you will still feel annoyed. After sighing in his heart, Qin Ren raised his palm slightly. It turned out to be coming from my side, and it was an armed force. It's really hard to imagine. The yellow sand tower rose from the ground again. At the moment when the sun disk with complex patterns floated on the inverted pyramid, Qin Ren's vision instantly covered the area of 1,000 meters around, and the group of people that Tsuchimikato Sanaharu mentioned were also included in Qin Ren's vision. 1, 2, 3, 4 2 people, each holding a weapon. That's really impressive. And 3 students who don't look very old? Are they also people with special abilities? If they weren't people with special abilities, they wouldn't have been brought here, right? I'm sorry, but work is work, so please just sleep well for the night. Be gentle. I can block the electromagnetic wave signals around me, but I can't block the sound. A blue-haired, high school-age boy whispered. Understood. The man in factory security uniform whispered, with the help of your reverse radar, it's enough. It's my turn to appear next, right? Another black-haired young man whispered, according to your plan, I will carry out large-scale operations later, which can only last for more than 10 seconds, and will cancel your cover. You must finish within this period of time. Yes, the man in security uniform nodded and smiled. Your light refraction projection can transfer the scenery of other places here like a mirage, and it is absolutely impossible for anyone to find it. Well, unless there is an optical ability user stronger than me, who interferes with and destroys the mirage I created, you will never be found. What are those people talking about? Although there is a picture and a field of vision, Qin Ren can't hear the sound. This is not scientific at all. When playing LOL, as long as there is a picture, you can definitely hear the sound, no matter what. Just do it directly. Follow my orders. Wait, can I get more momentum points by making a more awesome appearance? That's decided. After he made the decision, he raised his hand and swung it downwards. Then he took out his phone from his pocket. If you want to have momentum, Azura's electronic music is also very powerful. Originally, he wanted to buy a large loudspeaker used in garbage trucks, but then he found a better software on his phone, a voice changer. With a little adjustment, he can make Azura's vibrato like electronic voice. By the way, It also has a sound amplification function. Academy City's technology is really amazing. After sighing in his heart, Qin Ren took a deep breath and whispered, "Return from the dust, my soldiers." At the same time, the mana in his body surged. Rustle, countless quicksands rolled and drubbed, forming sand rolls, and the surging wind and sand enveloped the entire alley, and the 12 people swept by the wind and sand. What happened? What happened? The manic wind and sand made them unable to open their eyes. Is it someone sent by Academy City? A device to detect espers? Or the Anbu? The leader in security uniforms put his hands in front of his eyes, squinting his eyes to block the swirling sand around him. "Don't worry. I'm here." The last of the 3 espers spoke up. "I'm a level 4 esper. As long as I'm here, nothing will happen. Hold your weapons tight." The leader in security uniforms roared in a low voice, "Don't be afraid. You have weapons." "What the hell are those people talking about?" "Forget it. Just knock them all down. Bury them, my soldiers." Along with the voice, intertwined with the rustling sound, there was a statue-like yellow sand soldier. "What is this?" "Whatever it is, if it's not on our side, it's the enemy." Without the slightest hesitation, the last esper made a grabbing motion with both hands towards the yellow sand soldier. As the yellow sand soldier, 1 meter away from him, made this motion, 10 deep finger marks appeared on his body. Just like a child holding plasticine, the yellow sand soldier was directly kneaded into a ball. So that's how it is. The force is stronger than the yellow sand soldier. It should be based on your own actions, and the force is amplified in a form similar to telekinesis and then applied to the target. But unfortunately, the yellow sand soldier is not afraid of physical attacks. The Qin people's spectator mode, the telekinetic boy naturally didn't know. After kneading the yellow sand soldier into dough, he smiled. If it's just like this, then. But the next moment, he saw that the body of the yellow sand soldier, which was kneaded into a ball, swelled again, and the surging quicksand formed the same yellow sand soldier as before. How could it be? The boy with the ability widened his eyes, and then immediately reacted. Is it also the same remote telekinesis operation as me? Let's see who is better. Boom. The sound stopped abruptly. The telekinetic boy lost consciousness directly. The half-arm condensed by the quicksand, which looked exactly like the yellow sand soldier, floated behind his head. Is this guy an idiot? Qin Ren, who was watching the other party's actions through the yellow sand tower, couldn't help but think in his heart. The yellow sand soldiers were not used for fighting, but to attract attacks. In other words, to act as a tank to taunt and attract attention. If he wanted to attack, he could just condense the sand and punch them. I wanted to practice and gain some practical experience, but now it seems that if I am not exposed, I am completely invincible in long-range combat, and there is no point in actual combat. Then just release the Imperial Guard's wall. After making a decision, Qin Ren also pulled out his other hand from his trouser pocket, and clenched his right fist into his open left palm. My Imperial Guards, destroy them. The remaining 11 people, who were still nervous because their own ability users were knocked down, saw 4 phantom-like figures in the sandstorm, holding a huge shield. With a burly figure, they rushed towards them in unison with the momentum of a chariot. You have obtained 85 yellow sand gold coins. You have obtained 1 F-level certificate. You have obtained 67 yellow sand gold coins. You have obtained 8 yellow sand gold coins. You have obtained 1 G-level certificate. You have obtained 1 yellow sand gold coin. Wow! Glancing at the already collapsed yellow sand tower, Qin Ren looked at the yellow sand gold coins in the system column, which had increased to 249. Now he could directly exchange for 2 things. However, just as Qin Ren was happy about his harvest, he suddenly felt his vision go dark. Something pierced through his head at a very fast speed, and a cool feeling came from his head. Before he lost his senses, the remaining hearing and vision noticed that a large hole appeared on the wall of the stairwell on his left. His head was completely blown off. When he lost consciousness and was in contact with death, Qin Ren's consciousness emerged with memories that were not from the past. A revolving lantern of memories? There was no such thing. There was only one sentence. It's like a watermelon. Consciousness was disappearing quickly. Light was disappearing quickly. The feeling of touch was disappearing quickly. Even the pain was disappearing quickly. Chapter 86. How could this be the real ending? There's also a resurrection armor. They are really well hidden. Are they from the Anbu? A kilometer away, a strong mercenary in black armed with one hand held a sniper rifle. Well, the magnetic sniper cannon of Academy City is really powerful. With this kind of power, it can directly destroy the armor of a tank, right? In his words, there was only an exclamation for the power of the sniper cannon, and there was no reaction at all to the fact that this magnetic sniper cannon killed a person. However, this was the fact. As a mercenary, he accepted the commission to protect the 12 people. Before this commission, he had killed hundreds of people with guns. After sighing, he immediately held his sniper rifle and prepared to leave the building and move to another place to continue the protection operation. Alas, but I don't know if this commission is considered completed. Because of the perspective, he did not directly observe the protected people in the commission, but he also heard the chaotic shouts and the last screams coming from the communicator. Anyway, it's solved, right? The mercenary walked downstairs with a leisurely mood holding the gun. At this moment, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his neck. Something was drilling into his neck. The mercenary widened his eyes, threw away the magnetic sniper cannon in panic, and scratched his neck with his gloved hands. You know what? Actually, I've always been very resistant to this kind of practice. I'm very resistant to the idea of stuffing sand directly into a person's body, because I know very well that if I do this, I will definitely kill someone. Stuffing sand into the trachea, into the alveoli, into the arteries, into the heart, it will definitely kill someone. I don't understand. When I attacked them, I deliberately held back and just knocked them out. I also controlled the strength and tried not to leave any sequelae. But why? Why did you pull the trigger at my head without hesitation? I'm just an ordinary person. Apart from killing chickens, fish, snakes, frogs and other things for the purpose of eating. To be honest, killing is something that an ordinary person like me resists. But you are an exception. I'm sorry. I really want to use some reasons like I understand. This is very logical. Killing is against the law to convince myself to let you go. But, it turns out that when your head is pierced by someone's bullet, you can't forgive the person who wants to kill me like you forgive someone who is hitting you head on. When he threatened steel and the empty can explosion maniac before, he just used it as a threat. He didn't expect to really use it today. Qin Ren's body trembled. It was not because of the death of the mercenary, but because the sand in his vocal cords and trachea made him only make a hoarse sound, and the mercenary who gradually lost his breath and stopped moving in the painful struggle was beyond Qin Ren's expectation. He didn't feel much about the death of the mercenary. Seeing this bloody scene, he originally thought that he would have some panic and nausea. Even if the reaction was not big, there should be some reactions such as shortness of breath. However, what he felt now was only a sense of pleasure. Am I a little perverted? Am I a sadist? A sadist? A heavy-mouthed sadist? Qin Ren thought in his heart. Then, he turned his attention to the resurrection armor that had entered the cooling state. If it weren't for this thing, he would really die. He never thought that he would encounter such a crisis before. It is definitely not fun to have his head explode like a watermelon. If there is a next time. No, he definitely doesn't want there to be a next time. But speaking of it, the moment he died, he fell into a nearly eternal void. This is contradictory, but it is actually true. From the outside, he was resurrected 4 seconds after his death. However, he felt that the time he was dead was more than just 4 seconds. 4 minutes? Too little. 4 hours? Too little. 4 days? Too little. 4 years? Too little. 40 years? Too little. 400 years? Too little. 4,000 years? Too little. Countless numbers can only get the result of too little. Even if it is expressed by the unknown length of time from the Big Bang to the end of the universe, it can still only get the result of too little. Almost eternal? This answer is also difficult to describe the Qin people's feelings at that time. He finally understood a line he had seen before. Go die once, and you will understand after dying once. After experiencing this indescribable eternal void, consciousness returned again. After he really died once. No, it seemed that this was not his first death. This was not the point. The point was that when he died, after experiencing the near-eternal nothingness, he felt for the first time that at that time, he had entered another place. From the time of awakening to the time of resurrection, his consciousness once again fell into the place that should be called the yellow sand space, just like the trance perspective when he hit the barrier that expelled idlers before, when the hot wind blew from the depths of his consciousness, that boundless desert world. But at that time, his perspective was not on the ground, stepping on the sand, it was in the air, to be precise. It was in the world full of yellow sand, on the sun disk in the center. As if he was the sun disk. That feeling was too weird, and he didn't know if it was his illusion. At this time, the scream that stopped abruptly also brought Qin Ren back to his senses. When he cast his eyes to the ground, the mercenary lying on the ground had already stopped breathing. His body was covered with dense small holes, which was the result of Qin Ren forcibly pressing gravel into his skin. With his magic power, he can use sand as a target to exert a force equivalent to a weight of 150 kilograms. This is true for a pile of sand, and the same is true for a grain of sand. Both can exert such a strong force. When the amount of sand controlled is small, the pressure that can be exerted is completely incomparable to a pile of sand. Not to mention piercing the skin, even the bones can be drilled directly into a hole. The only obstacle is that after the sand is stained with blood, it will be more difficult to continue to control it, and the mana consumed will increase. At this time, a voice sounded. In the end, someone got there first. This was originally my prey. Hearing the voice, Qin Ren couldn't help but turn his head. Along with the sound of footsteps, a girl appeared, wearing a miniskirt and black stockings, wearing a beret, fluffy golden long hair, blue eyes, snow-white skin, slender and petite. You are, P.S. This is obviously a place where the resurrection armor is about to take effect, but someone actually thinks it is the finale. Then I will update the evening chapter in advance. Thanks to the book friend CMCLJ for the reward of 100 Kidian coins. Chapter 87 Flanta is so cute. Qin Ren was slightly stunned when he saw this girl with a cute smile on her face. This outfit, who are you? Qin Ren swallowed back the word frienda that he almost blurted out. In Academy City, the various Anbu are basically invisible to each other. His group does not know the existence of the prop item, and the members of the prop do not know the existence of other Anbu. Although there are speculations, there is no actual evidence of the existence of other Anbu. It was not until the later Anbu War incident, which is the incident in the third animation, that the Anbu discovered each other. Because he only remembered a rough idea, he had no idea how much each Anbu knew about other Anbu before the incident. Frenda is a member of the Anbu item prop. It can be said that she is one of the few characters that he likes, even though she does not have a curvy figure. He admires the leader of the prop system the most. She attaches great importance to relationships with others. She remembers the birthdays of all her acquaintances. Her entire secret base is filled with birthday gifts carefully prepared for all acquaintances. She also risked her life to save Mr. Lei. In the end, she died miserably, although she deserved it because she betrayed her teammates. If you know her whole story, you will still feel a little sorry, especially when she was killed. It was close to Mai Ji's birthday. She didn't send the birthday gift she carefully prepared for Mai Ji, but was killed by Mai Ji's ability. She deserved a pitiful death. Speaking of which, in the novel, Mai Ji only noticed this later, and together with the props, she tried her best to protect her sister who looked almost exactly like Flanta. When Qin Ren saw that, he was still quite moved. And now, he met Flanta, who was alive and not broken into two pieces. No need to say anything. Flanta, as a member of the covert operation of the Anbu, naturally would not answer Qin Ren's question. The two slender white palms on the hem of her skirt grabbed something the moment she spoke, but her wrist seemed to be held by something. The cute smile on Flanta's face disappeared, and her eyes with a horrified light cast their eyes on her hand holding the portable anti-tank missile. There were dozens of cold gray ropes similar to the ground, which tied her body up. Moreover, several hands grabbed her arms and thighs. Little sister, I advise you not to do it. My ability is level 4, metal manipulation. After your bomb flies out, it is not certain whether it will fly towards me or back. Qin Ren put his hands in his pockets and released false information expressionlessly. At the same time, he was a little uneasy. Flanta's arrival means that the props have also been sent by Academy City to protect the transportation of satellite wreckage. The 4th level 5, atomic disintegration, Mai Yi Shenli, commonly known as Sister Mai, may also be nearby. Sister Mai's personality is extremely irritable, as irritable as a relative who has lived for a long time. It is possible to treat him as an enemy without saying a word and kill him with your ability. Now, although the cooling of the resurrection armor has been completed, he doesn't want to try the feeling of death again. I'm protecting the transport vehicle. This sniper was about to attack the security guards and shot me. I think you're not in the same group with him, right? Qin Ren deliberately added some information in his words. Normal people would think he was in the same group with the security guards when they heard this. Although this doesn't guarantee that he won't be suspected, he won't be attacked immediately. It's over. It's over, Metal Master? How could I meet such a person? Am I going to be humiliated here today? Flanta, who was bound by ropes and sand hands, had a red and white face because her thighs were grabbed by those hands, but after hearing the last part of Qin Ren's words, the random thoughts in her head finally stopped. Not an enemy. That was a close call. Not in the same group. Not in the same group. I'm also protecting the transport vehicle. After being controlled, Flanta, who had a strong desire to survive, immediately begged for mercy. Really? Qin Ren snapped his fingers, and the gravel that bound Flanta loosened her. To be honest, if it was someone else, Qin Ren would still be worried. But Qin Ren was not really worried when he met Flanta. Whether it was TNT, RDX or PBX and mixed explosives, the contents were all granular. As long as he applied force to the contents of the bomb, he could detonate the explosives in advance. In other words, if he wanted to kill him, it would be useless to use solid bombs against him, unless it was liquid explosives or gas explosives. Otherwise, he could just use a sniper rifle to shoot him in the head like this mercenary. Thinking of the sniper rifle, he was still furious. This kind of anti-armor sniper cannon could easily blow up the armor of tanks, helicopters, large passenger planes or robots, but someone actually used this thing to shoot him in the head. Well, that's it, little sister. He had to leave quickly, otherwise if Sister Mai really came, she would just hit him in the head and he would be finished. Okay. Flanta, who was thinking about which bomb in her bomb had no metal components, blinked and forced a cute smile. Take care, you really have a strong desire to survive. After complaining in his heart, Qin Ren turned around. At the moment of turning around, Flanta grabbed her skirt again with both hands and prepared to take out the bomb. Her eyes suddenly turned black. Countless gray-black particles were spinning rapidly in the air, and the whole floor was covered with gray-black dust. Flanta closed her eyes subconsciously. When the gray-black particles dissipated and her vision was restored, she only saw the broken body, and the blonde man had disappeared without a trace. Although she still wanted to avenge the touch on her thigh, she couldn't help but feel relieved when the other party ran away. Able to control metal. Remember this. Next time I will make a bomb without metal components. Flanta gritted her teeth in her heart. On the other side, Tsuta Mikoto Sanaharu came to the position where Qin Ren had just been sniped. She stopped and swept her eyes across the wall that was pierced and shattered by the sniper cannon, and looked at the ground again. What's going on? She took out another piece of red-colored paper from her bag. Magic power flowed from her fingertips, and hundreds of dense green dots appeared on the colored paper. However, the dot that seemed to represent Izil disappeared for a few seconds. How can he hide his life information? If it was a magician, she would not find it strange at all. After all, this magic was quite simple. Feeling the dull pain in her abdomen, she disconnected the supply of magic power and stuffed the colored paper back into her bag. Chapter 88. Long live the Brotherhood. When Qin Ren remembered something and returned to the place where he was sniped, he found Tsuta Mikoto Sanaharu. When the two looked at each other, Qin Ren found that her expression seemed a little wrong. What happened? Was he seen when he was resurrected? But when it comes to the situation of resurrection from the dead, normal people will think that he was not killed, but used some kind of trick to deceive the eyes, right? The most important thing is that there is no blood. Qin Ren cast his eyes to the place where he fell just now, and there was only a pool of sand, no blood. His blood, after leaving the body, will turn into sand. He himself doesn't know what's going on. Not only blood, but after he cuts his nails, the cut nails will also turn into sand after they are completely separated. According to the experiment of Jimin's laboratory, the composition analysis of sand is completely ordinary quartz sand. Like ordinary sand? Not really. Sand that is transformed from body tissue that leaves his body is easier to control. In fact, a large part of the sand in his room is such sand. In fact, he himself can't understand why his hair, nails, and blood will turn into sand after leaving the body. After he was sniped, the blood and the contents of his head that fell to the ground also turned into sand. Originally, he thought that although it was in the form of sand, it should still be made of flesh and blood. The results given by Beiji Jimin's laboratory surprised him a little. It seems that it is impossible to clone something with his blood. When he knew the result at that time, he was a little disappointed. However, because the parts separated from the body will turn into sand, he looks completely unharmed from the outside. Did Tano really see it? He tried to explain something first, which made the matter even more obvious. He would never go back to do such a thing as covering up the truth. Tano, I just met a blonde girl with a lot of bombs on her. Do you know who she is? Hearing Qin Ren's words, Tano Sanaharu temporarily put aside his doubts. Is she a person with special abilities? Yes. Qin Ren nodded, then threw down a gun. After I killed someone who tried to snipe me, the girl suddenly ran out and said something like stealing my prey. Prey? Such the Mikado Sanaharu crossed his arms and frowned. Is it a security guard, or another Anbu? Are there other Anbu? Qin Ren looked completely unaware. It seems that you don't think there is only one Anbu. Such the Mikado Sanaharu glanced at him when he heard this. There are various branches for security guards, and there are more than 10 general directors. Why is there only one Anbu? Who would think so? Qin Ren asked with a slightly surprised tone. Even if he hadn't read the original work, he would not have thought that there would be only one Anbu, and Qin Ren's logic sounded very reasonable to Tsuta Mikado Sanaharu. Why was she so stupid as to think that there was only one Anbu? If she hadn't discovered traces of other Anbu from clues, she really wouldn't have thought of it. Yes, such a simple truth, any normal person can figure it out. Although it was a bit unexpected, it's better to write it down. Maybe it will be useful one day. Tsuta Mikado Sanaharu thought in his heart, smiled and shook his head, and then asked, what other characteristics does she have? Qin Ren repeated Flanta's appearance, especially the fact that she was carrying a large number of portable bombs under her skirt. In fact, if he hadn't discovered that she had a lot of explosives on her, Qin Ren really couldn't recognize that she was Flanta at the first time. There were more than 10 portable anti-armor missiles tied to her thighs, as well as several flash bombs, sonic boom bombs, and smoke bombs. 4-dimensional skirt. In a sense, no wonder Flanta in the animation has such amazing leg skills. It's not surprising that her slender legs are full of muscles when she carries a bunch of warheads tied to her legs every day. Thinking of muscular legs, he thought of one thing, that is, those female colleagues often touched their calves and said, muscular legs are ugly, I don't want to exercise them by running. However, that is called fat legs. The legs that can really be called muscular legs look slender and beautiful from the outside. If you want to train like the devil muscle man to make a large piece of muscle protrude from the calf, you need a lot of exercise. It's not a question of whether you want to or not, but ordinary people can't do it at all. Oh, no, this is not the point. Qin Ren, who had been distracted, came back to his senses, only to see that Tsuta Mikado Sanaharu was looking at the road where the transport truck had left, silent. Did you find anything? Qin Ren asked expressionlessly. At the same time, the sand under his feet and on the floor below him condensed into a yellow sand tower. In the yellow sand storm swirling in the wind, an inverted pyramid formed in the center of the storm. The phantom-like surging yellow sand gathered above the inverted pyramid to form a sun disk. At the moment the sun disk was formed, Qin Ren's vision expanded again. Within a kilometer range, all objects formed a detailed scene like a design drawing in his mind. Whether it was people, monitors, or nanoparticles in the hovering loop, they all appeared in his field of vision without omission. Is there anything special? The attackers he knocked down, the other group of attackers who tried to launch an attack. And wait, Brother Pao and Sister Pao, what are you two doing here? And those two, wait, do they already know the absolute ability plan? Izil, get back to work, Tsuta Mikado Sanahara reminded. This is a job assigned by the higher-ups. There's a bonus for completing it, but if you don't complete it, it's not as simple as not getting the bonus. After saying that, she turned and walked into the stairwell, whose walls had been shattered by sniper artillery fire and whose walls were littered with concrete blocks. Qin Ren glanced at her, then walked to the edge. At this time, should you stretch your arms out in the shape of a cross, and then fall face down, and then shout "Long live the Brotherhood," putting the naughty thoughts back in his mind. Qin Ren leaned forward without hesitation and fell straight down from the upstairs. As he fell, the wind and sand around his body swirled into a whirlwind, which held up his body and allowed him to slowly land on the ground with his feet facing the ground. Sure enough, a cloak and straw are required to make a leap of faith. After silently complaining about the joke he made in his heart, he turned to look at the main door of the building. Tsuta Mikado's figure would appear there in about half a minute. However, he did not want to wait for Tsuta Mikado to do anything else. Having discovered Brother Pao and Sister Pao, of course he had to go over to check out the situation. P.S. Logically speaking, at this time, one should ask for recommendations, collections, book lists, rewards, and so on. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89 Mobile Defense Tower. I'm so smart, Mikoto. We need to destroy the satellite wreckage. We must not let it continue to exist. I know, if we succeed, we can save them. Misaka Suekoto's hands were constantly moving. In the center of his palms, a ball made of metal wire was getting thicker with his movements. As he was wrapping it, he said, "Throw away your idea that you can save them by dying." As an older brother, Misaka Suekoto stared into his sister's eyes. That cowardly idea of wanting to die and evading responsibility is nothing. Electricity flowed in the metal wire ball he had wrapped with his own hands, and then it turned red, softened, and became burning red. With his eyes narrowed, Misaka Suekoto threw the molten metal ball in his hand away. Under the acceleration of the electromagnetic field, the molten metal ball penetrated the container next to it. The ability of that androgynous white-haired Shamal is very strange. I hacked into the databases of various schools and couldn't find any information about that person's ability. But there is no doubt that person is the top of Academy City, the top of the ability users. The first in level 5, Vector Operation Accelerator. But, Misaka Mikoto bit her lip, with only sadness on her gloomy face. Whether it's operating electric current or using magnetism to operate iron sand, even my railgun was reflected by him. I can't think of any other way. Listening to her story and looking at the tear hanging from the corner of her eye, Misaka Suekoto, who was also in a bad mood, exhaled and wiped away her tears roughly. There is no time for you to hide and cry. We must do everything we can. After saying that, he stood up directly, glanced at the mobile phone in his hand, and chased in the direction where the transport vehicle left. Misaka Mikoto took a deep breath, showed a determined expression, and then chased after it. The direction they are going is the direction of the satellite debris transport vehicle. Qin Ren, who was watching the two people's conversation from afar through the expanded vision of the solar disk, thought, have they already known about the absolute power plan, and have they begun to stop the plan? Because he couldn't hear the sound, he didn't know what the two people were talking about. But no matter how you look at it, the purpose of the two people who should be in the 7th district to come to the 17th district on the edge of the Academy City can't be simple, right? There happened to be an incident of transporting the satellite debris of the tree diagram designer here. Who would believe that these two people just happened to pass by here for a walk? If their purpose is to stop the absolute power plan, then the reason for coming back here is undoubtedly to do something that can destroy the plan. He doesn't know the rest, but destroying the satellite debris is definitely one of the options that can prevent the plan from continuing. Did Hatsuharu find it, or did the two siblings find it through hacking? In any case, it is likely that the satellite debris will be destroyed by the two siblings. However, although the absolute power plan will definitely fail under the various secret operations of the Big Bald Head, it is not clear whether the Big Bald Head will let them destroy the satellite wreckage. Because of the changes in the world, he was not sure whether the Big Bald Head still wanted the absolute power plan to fail, but after discovering that the clones of the Misaka brothers and sisters appeared in the 7th district, this became certain. After all, why choose the 7th district, where the leader Kamiju and the sister Misaka live and where there are many people and eyes, as the experimental site? If you want to conduct experiments deliberately, smart people will find it unreasonable. It is reasonable to choose a remote and suburban area like the 17th district as an experiment. Therefore, after discovering the group of Misaka in the 7th district, the Big Bald Head still wants to make the absolute power plan fail, and the plan to send cloned Misaka to all parts of the world still exists. So now, what should he do? Since he knew that the sister and brother Misaka came to destroy the satellite, he naturally would not be stupid enough to stop the two. Then just sit there and do nothing? No, no, no. Those other people who want to take away the satellite wreckage can still be killed. When they encounter brother and sister Cannon, they can just slack off. After making the decision, Qin Ren turned his head and looked at the yellow sand tower beside him. In fact, he was considering an idea during this period. That is, a mobile defense tower. Use the defense tower as a mount? No, no, no. Riding the defense tower is too weird. He wants to condense the yellow sand tower inside the body of the desert dragon or desert dragon lizard. When he moves on the desert dragon or desert dragon lizard, he can get a moving vision. The preconceived impression made him always think that the defense tower cannot be moved. When the idea of mobile defense tower came up and collided with the empty shell dragon and empty shell dragon lizard, the sun disk's flat attack just happened to be ejected from the mouth of the desert dragon lizard or desert dragon. Dragon breath. I'm really too smart. After the increasingly thick-skinned Qin Ren boasted, he rolled up the quicksand, carefully recalled the forms of the desert dragon and the yellow sand tower, and then gathered them together. In order to deepen his impression, he also took out his mobile phone to watch the rendering video of the desert dragon. Then, he took a deep breath, posed, stretched out his right hand, made a claw shape with his palm facing the ground, and whispered, "Return from the sand, my servant." In his second-year whisper, the wind and sand rolled up a dust whirlwind, and the outline of a desert dragon that was larger than usual gradually solidified. When the body was completely solidified, Qin Ren also subconsciously controlled the other party to flap its wings. However, at this time, he suddenly discovered that the desert dragon also made a move when he did not operate. What is going on? However, it was not a very imposing move, but a feeling of confusion, similar to the subconscious movement of ordinary people after waking up. Why did this happen? He hasn't done anything recently. Why would the desert dragon be like this? Wait a minute. Qin Ren's movements paused slightly, as if he had thought of something. Then, he turned his gaze to his system, and then looked at the yellow sand space item. This option is the memory house, where you can see illustrations of various tools you have and illustrations of monsters and bosses you have encountered. With a guess in his mind, Qin Ren opened the yellow sand space. As the thought fell, a scorching whirlwind rolled up the yellow sand. The scorching sun that seemed to burn everything fell from the sky. The sound of the wind that became hot and dry under the scorching sun roared in Qin Ren's ears. The tall sun disk cast a shadow, falling in parallel with the sun in this endless desert. Chapter 90 Luminous Body. In the boundless desert that should have been empty, at this moment, there was a desert dragon squatting on the ground, just like the desert dragon he had created in the outside world. As for the differences, of course there was a glowing sphere in the belly of the desert dragon. In this bright space, the light was not noticeable to the naked eye, or it was normal not to be able to see it. However, Qin Ren could feel it, because he could clearly see the appearance of the glowing sphere. It was a man, a face he could never forget. After all, this guy almost killed him, and he killed him in return. That's right, The glowing sphere looked like the mercenary with the sniper gun that Qin Ren had just killed. So what was this glowing sphere? Soul? Qin Ren guessed thoughtfully. Why was the mercenary soul here? Because he was killed? Because the background he set for the protagonist of the game was Azra's otherworldly isotope. Azra's prototype is Horus, and the myth of Horus is based on the corpse of Osiris and the identity of the son of Isis. Osiris is the Hades in ancient Egyptian mythology, that is, the god of death. Osiris was later killed by his brother Set. Osiris' wife Isis found Osiris's body. Osiris resurrected for one night and died again. From his body, Horus was derived. As a derivative of the god of the underworld, it seems that there is nothing wrong with being able to control the soul. Of course, this is Qin Ren's own second year. His real idea is more inclined to another one. His memory house setting. In most games, monsters that have been challenged, killed, or captured will appear in the memory house illustration. This is the basic operation of most games. But the former sounds more cool. Although reason tells him that it may be the second one, his sensibility makes him more willing to accept the first one. After all, the first one is more cool. In short, he roughly understands the current situation. He enslaved the soul of the person he killed, and this soul will attach to the desert dragon, yellow sand soldier or any other target he condensed in some way. When he is not distracted to operate, it can maintain its form and move on its own, just like usual. When he condenses a desert dragon, a corresponding desert dragon will appear in the yellow sand space. No, to be precise, it should be his consciousness that condenses the form in the yellow sand space, but the power is mediated by mana, and the sand makes corresponding changes in reality. When he condenses a yellow sand soldier or a desert dragon, the soul will attach to the desert dragon or yellow sand soldier in the yellow sand space, and when it makes a move, it will be reflected in reality, and the desert dragon reflected in reality will also make the same move. But there can only be one. If two desert dragons are condensed, only the one attached to the light ball will maintain itself automatically. He can also give orders to let the desert dragon act. However, what puzzled him was that the soul did not seem to be hostile to him at all. The light ball contained the soul of the mercenary. When he turned his eyes to the light ball, he could see some vague memories. However, those memories were like words copied from a notebook. The light ball itself did not react to Qin Ren. How should I put it? It was not that it did not recognize him, but that it had no self. Yes, no self. No matter what order Qin Ren gave it, it did not resist at all. Qin Ren even had a feeling that if he asked it to self-destruct on the spot, it would do so without hesitation. It was not because of its unconditional worship of him from the bottom of its heart, but because it could not resist Qin Ren's orders. The most important thing was that this thing had no self and would not have the will to resist. After thinking about it, Qin Ren finally came up with a more popular explanation. That is, if the mercenary he killed was a player, then this light ball was the player's archive, not the player himself. After figuring out that the desert dragon suddenly became conscious, Qin Ren's consciousness returned from the yellow sand space. Looking at the desert dragon that made a similar human scratching head action because of the reflection of the mercenary's soul, Qin Ren couldn't help but twitch his mouth. If a dog's soul is attached, wouldn't it have to lick its paws and wag its tail? If it's a dog, don't choose Ra. However, it seems that the way to get the soul ball is to kill. However, as a normal person, except for the mercenary who wants his life, he really doesn't want to kill anyone else. Forget it. This is not important. Let's go to brush the gold coins first. It would be terrible if all the monsters were killed by brother and sister. Where is it? My yellow sand gold coins? A sand yellow flying dragon was carrying Qin Ren and flying quickly in the air. Compared with the dragon eyes that were deliberately shaped with reflective particles, the dragon eyes of the desert flying dragon at this time were slightly dim. But the dragon eyes that lost their spirit did not lose their will. On the contrary, these dim eyes have a real soul. Launch the attack, my servant. Qin Ren deliberately suppressed his throat, imitating Izir's DJ vibrato, and said in a suppressed voice. The actual operation was still done by Qin Ren himself. In the center of the sun disk hidden in the body of the desert dragon, a blazing light like sunlight condensed, and then a sandy yellow ball of light spewed out from the mouth of the desert dragon. On the ground, Among another group of people who were waiting for an opportunity to act, the alert discovered this sandy yellow energy ball. We are attacked. When a person with special abilities recruited by this organization found that the sandy yellow energy ball was flying towards him, he reacted quickly. When the sandy yellow light ball was only half a meter away from him, the secretions in his brain instantly exerted superpowers on his whole body. The ability, internal force field, rated as V3, which can change the direction and magnitude of the force in the body to a certain extent. He pushed down slightly with his feet, and the force that should have allowed him to jump more than 10 centimeters made his body move sideways for 3 or 4 meters. He was able to use his abilities accurately, and he was more flexible than any special forces soldier. But the sandy yellow ball of light did not hit the ground, but turned at a right angle like a tracking bullet and hit his shoulder. The original attack power was between G and 2G, but under the heating effect of the sun disk, the attack power was increased by an additional 40%. Unique passive, heating. The first 3 attacks of the sun disk cause 40% enhanced damage, and the maximum damage is 220% after 3 attacks. The ability user, who thought he had avoided the attack and relaxed, felt a severe pain in his shoulder and shock. The force was equivalent to a heavy object with a mass of more than 200 kilograms, and his shoulder was fractured in an instant. The severe pain interfered with his calculations, causing his ability to stop, and he lost balance and fell to the ground in a trance. The concussion of his head caused by falling to the ground with his head backwards made him faint directly. Thanks to the book Friend 911 for the reward of 500 starting coins, and thanks to the book Friend for the reward of 100 starting coins. Chapter 91. You can't avoid the tower even if you flash. When the internal force field, which was able to survive and fight back against less than 20 armed guards with flexible combat methods, was knocked down by the sandy yellow light ball like a tracking bullet, everyone turned their eyes to the sky. In the sky with a bright moon hanging high, the beautiful white moonlight fell on a monster flapping its huge wings. Even if people have never seen it in person, they cannot fail to recognize it after seeing and hearing such monsters in various games, comics, movies and other related works. Dragon, flying dragon. Why is there such a monster here? There is a person on its back. Is it a secret biological weapon of Academy City? Or is it a person with the ability to transform? No matter which speculation it is, the monster and the person standing on it will not be considered friendly. In an instant, everyone turned their guns and pulled the trigger at the desert flying dragon. Compared with the more advanced firearms in the outside world, which are only the size of a pistol, the dark muzzle continuously fired bullets that can shoot bullets comparable to WA-2000 sniper rifles. The recoil of the bullets fired by the gun was almost completely offset by the nearly efficient reaction-type recoil brake built into the gun body. In an instant, more than 40 bullets were fired from 7 gun muzzles, and more than 30 of them hit the desert dragon in the sky. 5 of them hit the person on its back. However, it had no effect at all. Although the monster was hit by bullets, it did not seem to be seriously injured, and there was no intention of falling down. On the contrary, it seemed to be enraged, and its limbs and wings shook violently twice, and the ferocious dragon head was facing their location. Not only the monster that looked like a flying dragon, but also the person standing on it did not look like he had any hands. You bunch of scum, how dare you resist? DJ-like vicissitudes of electronic music sounded from the figure. How is it possible? It must be that the damage is not enough. Attack its wings. Wings. Block the bullet. Is it a person with special abilities? The remaining few people continued to attack while communicating, while changing bullets, communicating and retreating. When they find that the power of the gun attack is not satisfactory, normal people may choose to run away directly. Fools may choose to continue to resist, and those with combat experience will choose to attack and obstruct the enemy's pursuit while retreating. The bullets leaking from their guns are meaningless. The next second, the desert dragon, which seemed to be enraged, raised its dragon head as if accumulating strength. Half a second later, the dragon head sank, and a sandy yellow water drop-shaped energy ball spewed out and flew quickly towards one of them. The few people who retreated while moving did not have the sharp perception and strong reaction power of the internal force field. Ability users. In an instant, the sandy yellow light ball came in front of them at a speed of several hundred meters per second, close to the speed of sound. Several of them collided. The bullets shot at the desert dragon with the sandy yellow dragon breath head-on, but the energy ball without a substance was not broken or destroyed, but crossed each other without affecting each other. The sand yellow energy ball directly hit the target targeted by the yellow sand tower in the desert dragon's body. The dragon breath, equivalent to hundreds of kilograms of force, directly knocked him out, and he lost consciousness in the severe pain and fell to the ground with his life or death unknown. This horrible attack also made the remaining few people more panicked. Dunmu fell. What should we do? Two of them turned around and ran without caring about their companions, hoping that their companions could become the target of attack and delay time for them. Hey, Haig, Jiudao, what are you doing? When the remaining four people were surprised by the two people's behavior of turning around and running away, the dragon breath, which was almost 1 per second, knocked down two people in succession. After knocking down two more people, Qin Ren once again controlled the desert dragon and the yellow sand tower in its body, and locked the target on the other four people. After he knocked down 3 people in the next 4 seconds, the remaining one looked at the corpses of his companions around him. He was so panicked that he raised his hands and surrendered. Before he could say anything else, the dragon breath from the desert dragon's mouth knocked him down again. After confirming that there were no more suspicious enemies nearby, Qin Ren walked out of the alley next to him. What? Not standing on the desert dragon? Are you stupid? Standing on the desert dragon's back in broad daylight to show off, but standing on it as a target during the battle? Is your life too long or too many resurrection armors? Glancing at the desert dragon flying in the sky, Qin Ren raised his right hand and snapped his fingers meaninglessly. In the middle school second-year pretentious action that he had gradually become accustomed to, the desert dragon and the yellow sand tower condensed in the yellow sand space in his consciousness suddenly shattered, leaving only the light ball. The desert dragon reflected in reality and the yellow sand tower in its body collapsed together, turning into dust all over the sky, and fell to the ground with a rustling sound. After the consumption became zero, his mana began to recover rapidly under the bonus of 55% momentum value, touching the 40% dividing line. Then, Qin Ren searched the things on these people. There was nothing else except guns. That's right, who would carry identity documents when they are acting covertly? Only a fool would do that. Even if they carry them, they would carry fake documents. No, wait a minute. Qin Ren's eyes were fixed on the youngest and the first ability user he knocked down. In this city, most of the ability users are students, so the possibility of young people being ability users is much greater than that of adults. Because he was the youngest, I thought he might be an ability user, but he didn't seem to be a particularly powerful ability user. But he should have some kind of instant acceleration skills. With doubts, Qin Ren controlled the sand to pull out a student ID from his pocket. Ban Murakaj. Tokuwadai Boys Middle School. LV3. Some information was recorded. Although the level of the ability was written, there was no specific information about the ability, not even the name. At this time, his cell phone rang. Qin Ren walked to a hidden place to avoid being sniped in the head as before, and answered the phone. Such the Mikado's voice came from the phone. Yoizel, where are you? Meow. Qin Ren raised his eyebrows when he heard the strange voice that sounded similar to Mia. This guy followed him when he flew away from that place directly. After that, he did not act alone, but followed his dragon all the way. And 5 minutes ago, that guy didn't know how he found out that the Qin man made of sand on the desert dragon was a fake, and then he didn't know how he found him, and then followed him all the way. All of this was under the expanded field of vision of the desert dragon, a mobile defense tower, without any cover at all. Thanks to the book friend Rabbit Sasha's for the reward of 500 starting coins. Chapter 92, Fire in the Castle, Revealing Age Series. When receiving her call, Qin Ren deliberately turned his head and looked in her direction. Just come over and tell me. We received information from the logistics team that the satellite debris was attacked. Obviously, Qin Ren could feel that her voice paused. He didn't know whether it was because of his words or because of his turning his head. Attacked? Qin Ren said while observing his mana value. Well, According to the intelligence sent, it is estimated that it was an electrical ability user. The transport vehicle was suddenly attacked and the power system was completely broken. Electric current, that is, Brother Pow and Sister Pow, have they already taken action directly? Then but, there is nothing in the transport vehicle. Meow. Such the Mikado Sanaharu's voice sounded again. Nothing? Qin Ren was a little confused. Are these transport vehicles just a cover? The vehicles that actually transported the satellite debris left from other places? The first thing that came to Qin Ren's mind was a strategy that had been used in ancient times, making a feint to the east and attacking in the west. Hearing this, such the Mikado Sanaharu was silent for a moment. Although this is possible, Izir, the news from there is that there are traces of cutting inside the wreckage of the transporter. Cut? Qin Ren was a little confused. Cutting with electric current, iron sand sword, or something else? What kind of cutting? I don't know. After the transporter stopped under attack and the driver got off, the transporter was attacked by a stronger electric current and exploded directly. The analysis was just discovered. It takes time to clear the wreckage of the transporter. It's not clear yet, but it is certain that it is not high-heat cutting, and high frequency has not been found. Things are really complicated. Meow. Such the Mikado Sanaharu replied. High frequency means high-frequency electromagnetic waves. High frequency is often used in industry for cutting, heat welding and other operations. The closest place to high frequency in life is probably the microwave oven. Electrical ability users, such as Misaka Mikoto, can release high-frequency electromagnetic waves for electromagnetic heating. That means the attacker and the person who attacked the inside of the transporter are not the same person. Qin Ren said thoughtfully. That's right, but I don't know if these different people are in the same group. Such the Mikado Sanaharu's voice was still so strange. Not being one person doesn't mean they are not in the same group. So, what should we do now? Go find someone? Qin Ren said calmly. At the same time, looking at the mana that had been fully restored during the communication, Qin Ren once again condensed the combination of the Yellow Sand Tower and the Desert Dragon. By the way, let's give this new combination a name. Desert Dragon, Yellow Sand Tower, and Sun Disk. Desert Flying Tower? It doesn't seem right. Desert Tower Dragon? It doesn't feel right either. Flying Dragon Tower? In this way, Flying Dragon becomes a modifier, and Tower becomes the subject. But it's quite interesting, with a gargoyle feeling. Then Flying Tower Dragon? It doesn't feel too cool. Dragon in the tower? Flying Dragon in the tower? High Tower Flying Dragon? High Tower Dragon? Sun Tower Flying Dragon? This sounds like the meaning of the dragon in the grass tower. Sun Tower doesn't sound good, so what about Sun Wheel? It doesn't sound like that. It doesn't sound good. Sun Disk Tower Dragon? Corona Dragon, but there is no tower in Corona Dragon. It's so confusing. It seems that there is no need to pay attention to the tower. It is necessary to add a word representing vision. Red Eyes Black Dragon. Castle Flame. Speaking of Red Eyes Black Dragon, we have to think of the three mythical gods, Wang Yang's three Egyptian mythical gods, Ra's Wing Dragon, Obelisk's God Warrior, and Osiris's Sky Dragon, as Egyptian things. He also added the abilities of these three mythical gods to the exchange list in the setting draft. Although it has not been implemented, even the unimplemented function of momentum value has appeared on him. Maybe the skills of these three mythical gods can also be exchanged? This kind of probabilistic event is just an expectation, but the setting of the three mythical gods must be very handsome. The things he admired and yearned for most when he was a teenager are also the source of his love for various desert and Egyptian-related things. In short, it is the culprit. Anyway, he wanted to try to condense the three phantom gods with sand. But the amount of sand that could be manipulated was not enough, and he had to increase his mana and magic power. At this time, Qin Ren, who was distracted, was called back by such the Mikado's voice. There is no order from above to find the lost satellite debris. It is very likely that it was transported from other channels. Wait a minute, the order from above came down. Let us go to find it. It seems that a space-type ability user took the satellite debris. I know. Space-type ability user? Is it Yunki or Shirai and the others? At this time, Under the expanded vision of the sun disk and the desert flying dragon, he noticed that such the Mikado had approached within 100 meters, so he turned around and walked towards him. Such the Mikado looked at the colored paper in his hand, and there was a red dot on it that was gradually approaching her, so he stopped. Touching the skin on her abdomen, it had begun to necrotize due to the conflict between the use of magic and superpowers. She gritted her teeth while enduring the pain. It's really troublesome. Superpowers. Although she used very little magic, using this simple spiritual outfit that can detect life would make her very painful. Why is it so difficult for a magician to develop superpowers? But when magic is not used, superpowers are not interfered with. Logically, shouldn't they interfere with each other? Although she silently accepted the development of superpowers, from that period until she was found out as a spy and forced to join Academy City, she did not find any content that inhibited magic in the development of superpowers. Sure enough, I still need to get the core content of developing superpowers for Index to take a closer look. However, it is not so easy for her to act now, as a double agent. It is not so easy for her to act. On the contrary, her actions are more restricted. It's really unpleasant. The body that stopped using magic began to slowly recover under the effect of the ability. Flesh regeneration. Such the Mikado. You are really leisurely. Hearing the voice, such the Mikado turned his eyes over, and a man with his hands in his pockets and a cold face showed half of his face from the shadow in the corner. Before she could speak, another bigger shadow came with low footsteps. A sandy yellow two-legged dragon with ferocious corners also poked its head out from the corner. But such the Mikado Sanahara suddenly frowned. It was different from what she felt before. The previous dragon was very aggressive and sharp. It almost reacted immediately after noticing her sight and tried to attack. But this one did not react to her sight at all. It felt more sluggish, like a puppet. No, a controlled puppet. Thanks to the book Friend Clone Baron for the 200 starting coins and waiting for you for the 100 starting coins. Chapter 93. Yes, I deduced all of this. After the vivid performance of the flying dragon man figure, Qin stopped right above the hole. As for what he was going to do, of course, he had to find a way to get the box out from below, control the gravel to fly out, keep the deep pit from collapsing, and not hit the edge when taking it out. It's not difficult to say, it's just a matter of whether the mana is enough. As for whether taking out the box will allow the absolute ability plan to continue, not to mention the satellite wreckage, even if the tree diagram designer is intact, as an important part of the expansion of the artificial heaven to the whole world, the absolute ability plan is doomed to fail. Not to mention it's just a wreckage. He can still understand this. The distance is about 150 meters. The top is a concrete road surface, and then down is a typical mixed soil mixed with all kinds of strange plastics, metal scraps, and thrown outside it would be called construction waste. Then down is slightly dry brown loam, and down is thick but blocky brown loam. More than 100 meters. How much mana will it take to dig it out? Calculated with the smallest opening, plus the extra mana required to peel off the solid soil layer, and the current mana recovery speed, he roughly estimated that he found that after digging more than 80 meters, his mana would be exhausted, and then he would need a minute to rest before digging the last 20 meters. First, abandon the insignificant mana consumption. Qin Ren glanced at the desert dragon beside him and said in a cold voice, "Back off." Then, the desert dragon shrinks back 2 steps, lowers its head, and respectfully lies on the ground, turning into wind and sand and dissipating in the air. My directing skills are getting better and better. After saying this silently in his heart, Qin Ren turned his eyes to Tsuchi Mikado who was walking towards him. The scene just now was obviously seen by Tsuchi Mikado. Why? It's very simple. Because the extra mana recovered has increased. Qin Ren can already feel clearly how much momentum the extra mana recovered is equivalent to. What do you mean by the thing below? Meow? Tsuchi Mikado Yuan-shun, who specializes in deception, has a smiling face, and his true mood is completely undetectable. Well, it should be. Qin Ren maintained his aloof image with his concise words. In the place we just passed, we found a pile of strange moist soil. According to the distribution of the soil layers, it should be 80 to 200 meters underground. And the ability of the man just now, and the reasoning process deliberately created by Qin Ren was taken over by Tsutomakoto Sanaharu. The location passed to me by the logistics member is here. It's not that the other party noticed the locator in the box, but used the space ability to move the entire box underground, Tsutomakoto Sanaharu thought and said. Manjo Akai's ability is level 4, exchange space, which can exchange equal volume spaces within a certain volume between 2 points. Exchange space. Is there any decoration funds for free? Qin Ren complained in his heart when he remembered a certain program on a certain CCTV station, but nodded coldly. The man called Menchang is very likely to have used his ability to exchange things underground. That thing is very likely the lost debris. There is a strange hole nearly 150 meters underground. It should be inside. Do you want to take it out now? He tried to reduce the things he could sense in his words, and described some of the information he got through perception as his own speculation. Is this shameless? How shameless? This is completely for momentum, to hide one's shortcomings. What's wrong with looking at the answer before doing the question? Qin Ren couldn't help but recall that when he encountered questions that he didn't understand in school, he would directly look at the answer. Speaking of which, at that time, the teacher would ask them to tear off the answer and hand it in. I really miss it. After being distracted for 2 seconds, Qin Ren's consciousness returned, not because of Tsutomakoto's words. At this time, Tsutomakoto was standing still with his right hand twisting his chin and his left hand hugging his right arm. What are you thinking about? What did you think of, Tsutomakoto? Qin Ren asked indifferently, turning his gaze back to the other person. However, the other person's eyes covered by sunglasses did not reveal any information to Qin Ren. Kanojo Akai, Tsutomakoto whispered. What happened to him? Why did he put the things down there, hiding? A flash of inspiration flashed through Qin Ren's mind, and Qin Ren answered thoughtfully, you mean? Yeah. Thinking that Qin Ren understood what he meant, Tsutomakoto whispered, if he was just hiding, why didn't he leave, but stayed nearby? Hand over. Who would hand over to him? Qin Ren, who understood, glanced at his mana, which had recovered to 80%. He stretched out his right hand and squeezed it hard in the air. In the swirling wind and sand, the body of the desert dragon appeared, and the field of vision expanded again. Find him, my servant. After hearing his words, the desert dragon nodded as if responding to his words, and then flapped its wings hard, and flew up and the wind stirred up by its wings. Qin Ren also began to search with the field of vision that expanded when the yellow sand tower condensed in the body of the desert dragon. Finally, he found a mature black-haired woman in her late 30s in the east. She was wearing a salesperson's uniform and looked like a female clerk in a supermarket. Is this the person? Let's test it first and attack the street lamp next to her. Attack. Qin Ren gave the order with his mind. The sun disk in the desert dragon's body lit up like the sun. In the night, from the outside, you can also see the complex patterns of the sun disk in the desert dragon's body, which lit up from the chest to the neck. A sandy yellow energy shockwave spurted out from the desert dragon's mouth, passing through the air in a straight line at a speed close to the speed of sound, and hit the street lamp next to the supermarket clerk. The strong shockwave directly hit the lampshade of the street lamp, and with a crisp sound, the lampshade of the street lamp shattered and fell to the ground. But in Qin Ren's view, the woman was a little surprised, but not as panicked as ordinary people. Or maybe she was just surprised because the street lamp was broken. After taking a step back to avoid it, she did not turn around and leave, but cast her eyes on the flying desert dragon. Moreover, after seeing the flying desert dragon, she still had no intention of leaving. Her expression was just surprise, without any expression that could be related to panic. I don't know if she is the person who met with the guide, but she is definitely not an ordinary person. A person with special abilities? A security guard? Anbu? Chapter 94. So are you two connected in series or in parallel? Tsutomakoto. It found someone, Qin Ren said to Tsutomakoto beside him. Needless to say, Tsutomakoto Sanaharu could also tell from the reaction of the flying dragon that could only be seen in magic book literature and ACGN culture. It was abnormal to launch an attack suddenly. Is it there? Tsutomakoto Sanaharu turned his side to the direction of the supermarket clerk following the direction of the desert flying dragon's attack. However, although he could see it in the air, He couldn't see it from her angle. When she was about to move, she found that Qin Ren beside her frowned. "What's wrong, Izil?" Qin Ren wanted to do something after hearing the words, but he only heard Tsuta Mikoto Sanaharu's hasty warning, "Izil, run." When he turned his head, he only saw Tsuta Mikoto Sanaharu running at the speed of a 100-meter runner holding his mobile phone. He was slightly confused, and then his expanded vision provided him with the answer. Two bright lightning flashed past him from behind. When he focused his eyes on the woman who looked like a supermarket clerk, he ignored the other direction. Qin Ren took a deep breath and turned around with his hands in his pockets. Although the situation was a little strange, he couldn't lose his momentum. "Misaka brothers and sisters, I didn't expect you to come here." Qin Ren seemed to have expected it. He watched two similar-looking brown-haired boys and girls run side by side from the shadow of the building along the road. Whoosh, whoosh, the desert dragon flapped its wings and landed beside him. "Why are you here, Izil?" Misaka Suekoto frowned, with lightning wrapped around her hands. Misaka Mikoto beside him also had a puzzled look on her face, and there was an inexplicable anger in her confusion. "Angry? Why?" "Wait. Are they thinking of him as someone related to the Absolute Ability Project? Then since you're here, do me a favor." Qin Ren took the initiative. "There is a space-type ability user similar to the Shirai siblings hiding nearby. Help me find him." "Huh?" The two siblings were suddenly stunned. "I got news from the security guard that a space-type ability user robbed items and ran away." "I don't know where he went," Qin Ren said seriously. "It's hard to ask us to go out urgently at night." "What are you two doing here? Watching a movie? Shopping? There are factories around here. Are you going to sneak out of Academy City?" Qin Ren did not show any hostility at all, and he did not need to show hostility. And his perpetual expressionless face, which he had to use because of his lack of acting skills, did not let the other party see anything. Qin Ren's words also made the Misaka siblings confused. Is Izil a person related to the plan, or is he really here just for the work of the discipline committee? However, they got a piece of information: the satellite wreckage was not destroyed by their attack, and a space ability user robbed the satellite wreckage in the transport vehicle. Misaka Suekoto's left hand secretly emitted electric currents. As electromagnetic ability users, he and Mikoto have been able to communicate with each other in the form of electromagnetic waves since they developed similar abilities when they were young. "Mikoto, don't be impulsive. Get more information from Izil. First, say that we are here to find Misawa Jaku." Recalling the recruitment advertisement she saw yesterday, Misaka Suekoto passed the information to Misaka Mikoto. "I understand." Electromagnetic waves came out of Misaka Mikoto's body and were received by Misaka Suekoto. "Yeah." Misaka Suekoto nodded slightly, then smiled at Izil. "Izil, is that so? We originally wanted to see Misawa Jaku, but because we are not familiar with the surrounding roads, we came to this time after seeing it. You want us to help, so tell us the details." "Misawa Jaku?" Qin Ren was a little confused. Is Misawa Jaku in the 17th school district? However, although he said so, "Brother Pao, your acting is too poor." Qin Ren shook his head in his heart. Pao had never smiled at him before. This acting skill could only fool strangers. However, although he knew that the other party was acting, Qin Ren, who was also acting, was happy not to conflict with the two of them. So he answered cooperatively, "You have also noticed that all the countries in the world that have the ability to launch spacecraft have coincidentally carried out launch operations during this period." While speaking, Qin Ren pulled his right hand out of his pocket and gently swung it back. The desert dragon made a roaring motion towards the sky, then silently crouched down and turned into wind and sand and dissipated. The pretentious action brought him momentum, but Qin Ren's face did not show any expression. Instead, he continued to talk nonsense, revealing some information by the way, and removed himself from the matters related to the ability user. "The reason is that the satellite was destroyed and fell from the orbit. I don't know if it was the tree diagram designer or some other satellite. Those countries launched spacecraft to snatch the satellite of Academy City. You should all know that the technological level of Academy City is 20 to 30 years ahead of other countries. Speaking of which, This kind of boasting that one's own country has the most awesome technology is not uncommon in both domestic and foreign works. While feeling the accelerated recovery brought by the continuous consumption of the Yellow Sand Tower and the Desert Dragon and the slightly increased momentum value, Qin Ren continued, "What is transported today is the satellite wreckage found by Academy City, and this information is also something that the Misaka brothers and sisters have known for a long time. But in order to get information from Qin Ren, they can't say that they know it." Misaka Mikoto used her poor acting skills to show a look of realization. "Oh, so that's how it is." Looking at her brother's actions, Misaka Mikoto sighed deeply in her heart, organized her words, and asked the key to the matter. "Have you found the space ability user?" "Of course, but should I tell them?" "No, wait. I seem to have said just now that I would ask them to help find the ability user." "I haven't found it yet," Qin Ren repeated. "Didn't I say that just now?" "If you have time, help me find it." Misaka Mikoto was stunned. "Huh? Did I say that?" Misaka Mikoto next to her nodded and whispered, "I did." Including Qin Ren, who dispersed the Yellow Sand Tower, the three of them did not notice that in the distance, there were three people watching them. The woman dressed as a supermarket clerk turned her eyes to the girl next to her and whispered, "Dolly, have you made up your mind?" "Yeah," the girl in the cloak windbreaker whispered, then turned her eyes to the tall young man next to her. "Zero, let's go." "Okay." Chapter 95. Wait a minute, is this going to be an early Anbu war? Qin Ren, who was considering whether to tell brother and sister Pao that the satellite debris was hidden underground, noticed that the expressions of the two people in front of him were a little strange. It seemed that they noticed something. Noticed something? Should I use the Desert Dragon and the Yellow Sand Tower to open the field of vision? But isn't it too abrupt to open the field of vision directly at this time? That's right, underground. Although it consumes a little more mana, but, Qin Ren's mind moved, and under the concrete ground, in the 4 or 5 meters deep soil layer, the sand gradually moved with his will, condensing into an inverted pyramid and a sun disk. The field of vision expanded instantly. In the east, there were two people wearing cloaks like researchers' white coats and hoods, a man and a woman, walking towards their position, and in the distance, the person who looked like a supermarket clerk was looking at the two people with concerned eyes. "Who is it?" Qin Ren was slightly confused, but after seeing the faces of the two people clearly, the woman was the other Misaka who looked a year or two older than Misaka, and the man was a young Misaka who looked to be about 25 or 26 years old. "Clone?" At this time, Qin Ren heard Misaka and Misaka in front of him say at the same time, "Excuse me, Izil, can you please leave first?" "Izil, we're leaving first." The slightly different personalities made the two people deal with it in different tones. "I see." Qin Ren didn't say anything else, but condensed the Desert Flying Dragon, stepped on his back and flew away from the scene. When he flew up, the female voice of the two men and women who looked like Misaka clones sounded, "Nice to meet you, sister. I'm Dolly." "Hello, I'm Zero." "Dolly, wait a minute, Dolly?" Dolly is that Dolly? Qin Ren, who was slightly confused, controlled the Desert Flying Dragon to fly to a building in the distance. "Hey, Izil." When the Desert Dragon landed, he saw Tsuchi Mikoto Sanaharu standing in the stairwell in a half-leaning posture. "Yeah." Qin Ren just glanced at her and stopped talking. "Dolly, looks like Misaka Mikoto." In other words, is it really Misaka Unit 01? Misaka Mikoto's somatic cell clone. The English name is Dolly, just like the cloned sheep, also known as Dolly, the first generation of clones used as a test for the trial construction of the Misaka network. As for why Qin Ren knew this information, because this Misaka Unit 01, unlike the original Misaka Mikoto, is a good friend of Queen Shoku. It can be said that Misaka Mikoto can become such an old enemy and friend with Queen Shoku, who is not very compatible, because of Dolly. Later, Queen Shoku would protect Misaka Mikoto at all costs, also because of this Dolly. However, Qin Ren remembered that this Misaka Unit 01, according to the setting, died of illness shortly after Queen Shoku entered junior high school due to the defects of cloning. But in this world, still alive? Qin Ren was extremely confused. Wait a minute, what if this is Queen Shoku's friend Dolly? Qin Ren dispersed the Yellow Sand Tower that was condensed underground, and instead condensed the yellow sand tower under this building. The woman dressed as a supermarket clerk, so that's it. An ordinary person controlled by Queen Shoku with psychological control. A worker bee. Queen Shoku, although he knew that Shoku Misaki could not use her abilities through indirectly controlled worker bees, Qin Ren still hid his body from the sight of the female supermarket clerk with a little fear. At this time, Tsutamikato Sanaharu next to him laughed softly. Clone, it seems that something interesting has happened. Tsutamikato, do you know about this? I have heard of it, but I didn't expect it to be on such a scale. She squinted her eyes and looked at the message sent on her mobile phone. If other forces know about this, it will cause global problems. And from her fake smile, Qin Ren could also see that she didn't really feel funny or happy. Tsutamikato can kill people at will, but he is not completely without a sense of justice. Moreover, although she is a person on the scientific side, she is also a person on the magic side, a member of the Church of Necessary Evil in Britain. Tsutamikato will never stand idly by when it comes to cloning, although he has some sense of justice. The bigger reason is that the level 5 clones represent the possibility of causing global problems. Qin Ren speculated based on what he knew about the personality of the male version of Tsutamikato. At this time, another group of people appeared in his field of vision. A 17 or 18-year-old girl with a tall and slender figure, plump breasts, and fluffy brown hair, wearing a lavender dress that only covered half of her thighs. The contrasting colors formed by the black stockings and white boots added a bit of a queen-like temperament to her sexiness. Beside her, there was a girl in sportswear who looked weak, a boy wearing an orange sleeveless vest jacket, and Frenda. Although the genders were a bit wrong, this combination was undoubtedly the 4-member group of the Anbu. Item. The 4th level 5 in Academy City. Atomic Collapse Mujino Shenli. The girl among the two should be the young mistress, level 4 ability tracking Taketsubo Raiko. The boy should be the level 4 nitrogen armor Kinata's favorite. Speaking of the son of Hippopotamus, I don't know what the situation is with the young master Hamazura Shich. This group of people came here. Qin Ren was about to inform brother and sister Pao, but he found another group of people. The others were wearing standard uniforms and had no special features, but the one in the lead had a strange ring device on her face with countless transmission lines, covering the entire head like Saturn's rings. The ring was plugged in all 360 degrees, and countless cables and hair fell to the waist. Who is this? Wait a minute, why is there another one? From another line of defense, another person walked out, a white-haired, slender accelerator. Why did Master Tma appear in District 17? Is this going to have an early battle with the Anbu? But at this time Master Tma has not joined their group. Psychological Control Shoku Misaki, Lightning Twins Misaka siblings, Atomic Collapse Mai-Yi Shenli, and Accelerator for level 5 gathered here? What the hell? Qin Ren glanced at Tsutamikato Sanaharu beside him. The other party seemed to have not noticed the arrival of these people, but just reacted to his gaze. What's wrong? Izil, what did you find? Qin Ren did not hesitate at this time. Others have come, and they are powerful ability users. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96. These wings are a bit big. Taketsubo, have you found the target? Mei Shenli held a few black crystal plates in his hands and threw them up and down. The defense of those laboratories is really lax, and the slimes they raised escaped. Yeah, right in front of here. The girl called Taketsubo nodded listlessly. The pupil that occupied a small part of the eyeball was one round smaller than the pupil of a normal person, which showed from the side that he was using his ability. However, at this time, she was suddenly stunned and a nervous look appeared on her face. Meijino, the first one is nearby. The first one? That androgynous Shimal? Mei Shenli frowned. Why? I don't know. Taketsubo Liu whispered. You asked me to memorize the AIM force field of the first one before, and the girl's voice was puzzled. What's wrong? After knowing that Accelerator was also nearby, Mei Shenli's expression was a little bad. In addition to the 2 experimental subjects with similar AIM force fields that we were tracking just now, there are 2 more ability users nearby with the same AIM force fields as them, but with stronger strength. Takotsubo whispered, "No, these 4 people have gathered together." "Gathered together? Stronger?" Mizuno Shenli said irritably. "Explain it to me clearly." "Oh." Takotsubo Riku still responded listlessly, "The strength of this AIM force field should be level 5. And it has some similar parts to your AIM force field." "LV5? Similar to me?" Mizuno Shenli's eyes lit up, and a ferocious smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. "I see, so that's it. Are they the 2 little brats in the 3rd place?" "What is the content of the commission?" "Kinata. Capture the target. If you can't catch it, you can kill it directly. It's a super weird commission." The boy in the orange vest and hood thought for a while, then answered, "Can we kill them?" Mei Shenli showed a hideous smile. "Those 2 experimental subjects must have something to do with the 3rd one. Let's go." With cruel excitement, Mei Shenli accelerated and walked in the direction that Takotsubo had just pointed out. "Meijino." Takotsubo stretched out his hand. "The first one too." Meijino is really unwilling to listen to advice at this time. Kinata, who was walking by her, whispered, "It's better for us to catch up with him as fast as possible." After saying that, he followed him directly. Only Frenda, who was worried, and Takotsubo Raiko, who was still weak, were left at the scene. "Takotsubo, do you really want to catch up? You might bump into the first one." Frenda swallowed her saliva, a little worried and scared. "But Mei has already caught up," Takotsubo Raiko said, and slowly caught up. Frenda hesitated for a while, but still followed. On the other side, the girl with the strange ring-shaped machine on her head mechanically rolled her eyes and looked at the people next to her. "Is the satellite debris here?" "Yes, the location is here," a woman holding a communicator similar to a mobile phone whispered. "What a fuss. We have to come to our school to recover the satellite debris, and we have to ask the leader to come." The girl's voice was full of resentment. "Just in case, Liu, you find a good place to ambush and be ready to snipe at any time." "I know, Wanhua." The girl in white clothes and black skirt nodded vigorously, looked around, and turned to a factory building. "Call me Yu Wang," the girl with stiff movements whispered, and then turned her eyes to others. "You go to protect her, or go to investigate the surroundings." "But I don't need protection," the girl with stiff movements whispered. "I am a level 4 telekinetic ability user. I can even block bullets from sniper rifles." At this point, the others no longer insisted. After nodding, these school members turned around and left. After watching the others leave, Yu Wang Wanhua also turned and walked towards the location of the satellite and the information. Things of this magnitude can be solved without the leader coming. However, halfway through, she suddenly stopped, because a slender white-haired figure slowly appeared at the edge of her vision. "Is that person Accelerator?" Yu Wang Wanhua's eyes widened. When she challenged the second person, who was now the leader of the school, she happened to encounter the second person challenging the first person. For the first person, for the slender figure of unknown gender, and the pale hair color like discolored cloth. As if he noticed her gaze, Accelerator turned his head, raised his eyelids, and stared at the mechanical ring on her head for a few seconds. As if he saw something disgusting, he turned around with disgust and continued to walk forward. As he walked, Accelerator took out his cell phone and made a call. "Hey, where is the laboratory you mentioned? Where is the laboratory in District 17? Are you kidding me, huh?" There was a hint of annoyance in his voice. The front half of his shoe stepped hard on the ground, rotating half a circle clockwise and counterclockwise. As he moved, spiderweb-like cracks appeared on the concrete road surface under his feet. "The laboratory must be hidden. It's normal that you can't find it." A female voice came from the phone. "We will send someone to pick you up. Hurry up, bastards." As he walked, Accelerator stopped and hung up the phone angrily. "You're wasting my time." Then, Accelerator raised his head and turned his gaze to the front. Why are you here too? Are you going to conduct an experiment here? Is this the experiment you are talking about? Just for this, you called me to the 17th school district? Wasting my time? The angry accelerator stomped hard on the ground. The ability to freely change the direction of any quantity amplified the power of this kick into a powerful force that was enough to smash the building in the repeated deflections. The square-sized concrete road surface suddenly collapsed, and the concrete slabs lifted up in the cracks. In front, 2 men and 2 women looked at him in astonishment. Accelerator? Amid the rumbling sound of concrete cracking, 2 voices mixed in it were filled with astonishment and 2 voices were boiling with anger. Although the Misaka siblings relied on their abilities to escape the attack in time, Dolly and Zero were thrown out by the flipped plates. Why is Accelerator here? Qin Ren, who was watching all this through the yellow sand tower, was also confused. Is there such a plot in the original book? There is no way to think about it, right? Is the wind from his butterfly wings so strong? This is no longer a breeze, a strong wind. This is a level 10 typhoon. The next moment, he saw Brother Pao using magnetism to lift the roof of a car and rescue Dolly and Zero. While Sister Pao's body was stimulated by brilliant blue lightning, a violent lightning flashed out from the sky, from the gloomy dark clouds, and fell directly on the top of Accelerator's head. Chapter 97. I think it's probably a series. The electric current bursting out from Misaka Mikoto's body flashed with a dazzling brilliance that made people unable to open their eyes. The heavy and real killing intent of the electric current was like a weapon that was gradually unsealed, and its power gradually increased. This terrifying electric current gathered on Misaka Mikoto's body and gathered with the lightning that she herself had triggered and fell from the sky. However, the joint attack of the 2 did not work. Use your ability to interfere with the clouds to trigger lightning and guide the lightning to fall. Talking to himself in his heart, Accelerator waved his hands in annoyance. The high-speed computing power and the ability substances secreted in his brain cooperated, and he looked directly at the lightning that had already come before his eyes without fear. The vertically falling lightning, at the moment it touched Accelerator's body, was easily reversed by his ability, as long as it was in contact. The direction of all energy such as kinetic energy, thermal energy, and electrical energy can be freely manipulated. It is not vector operation and it does not change the direction of the vector. To be precise, it should be called energy redirection and force, which changes the direction of energy movement. Theoretically, it can operate any ability. Even nuclear weapons cannot hurt it at all. Just a little bit of power can produce great destructive power, and even the reaction force can change direction. The attacker will be subjected to both the applied force and the reaction force. The next moment, the lightning that originally hit Accelerator, carrying the generated force and reaction force, flew out in the direction of his left hand. Then it penetrated the building under Qin Ren's feet. Boom. The huge electric energy of 10 to the 6th power volts and 2 times 10 to the 5th power amperes between the clouds was carried by lightning and hit the circuit of this automated factory. In an instant, all the machines that used electricity were destroyed. Qin Ren, who placed the yellow sand tower on the highest floor under his feet, clearly felt the situation of this huge energy destroying the machines in the entire building. He only had one thing to say in his heart: MMP, you gods fight, don't bother me. His eyes swept across the 548 gold coins in the gold coin column. The group of people he defeated today contributed so many gold coins to him. However, it is still impossible to improve the skills. 1,000 gold coins can upgrade the G level to F level. I would not have done it if I had known. While thinking, Qin Ren extracted metal particles from the surrounding metal objects and gathered them a few meters away. After making a simple lightning rod, he gathered quartz sand around his body. Ordinary quartz sand itself is an insulating material, which is the first layer of protection. Metal particles are spread around the sand to guide the current away from the metal particles. This is the second layer of protection. Principle? If you have to talk about the principle, it is probably the principle of wires. Although there are no strong magnetic particles such as neodymium iron boron nearby to serve as the third layer of protection, it is okay to repeat the methods of the first and second layers to create multiple layers of protection. However, are they in parallel or series? At this time, Tsuta Mikado Sanaharu, who was standing next to him, looked at his movements and couldn't help but chuckled. It's really dangerous. Meow. Tsuta Mikado, You retreat first. I don't think we can participate in the current situation. At the level of LV5, he really couldn't participate. Oh, wait a minute, speaking of it, Accelerator can't reflect magic? His power is not a superpower, nor is it magic, can it? Qin Ren looked at his hands. Does that mean that he can defeat Accelerator? Wait a minute. Qin Ren found a serious problem. That is, why didn't he attack LV5 before? If he knocked him out by sneak attack, wouldn't the bounty come? If Accelerator can't reflect his ability, then he should be able to get at least an E-level gold coin bag from the master. What if he can get a D-level bag? He remembered that in his setting, the setting of D-level was against giant beasts, against the army, which could directly destroy/resist/ equivalent to the strength of 1,000 to 10,000 troops, and could open 1,000 to 10,000 points. And the Shurima brothers and sisters. And there are the Misaka siblings. Why not find a chance to knock them out once each? And there are the Hierophant siblings. According to the original setting, the Hierophant is the benchmark of the entire world, second only to the devil. So if we knock them out, can we get the S-level gold bag? Although the background setting of the Hierophant is very high-end, even a small thug can be defeated. Qin Ren finally realized that he had fallen into a thinking error. Why didn't he think of taking action before? Regardless of all this, try to take action against Accelerator first. As he said, he raised his hand. Try to use a flat attack first, or attack with the yellow sand tower, just in case it can be launched. When Qin Ren was about to launch an attack, below, because of the final move, the thunder attack was easily dealt with. Misaka Mikoto's face turned pale, and Misaka Mikoto also used magnetic force to gather the surrounding metals with a solemn face, and pulled her sister back to her side. At this time, Accelerator's smile became more and more prosperous. You two, are you the originals? We meet again. Her face was full of exaggerated facial expressions, just like those on a TV show. Ahaha. The originals, not only are those puppets coming, but the originals are going to come on stage too? An increasingly rampant smile appeared on Accelerator's face, and an abnormal laugh like asthma also came out of his mouth. Who of you will come first? Misaka Mikoto bit her lips tightly, and the idea of being defeated and killed that Misaka Mikoto persuaded her to do so once again surfaced in her mind. She was desperate and could not think of any way. Whether it was destroying the research institute or interfering with the experiment, or even suddenly attacking with all her strength, it was useless. She had gradually understood the ability of the person on the other side, and she had realized that if she could not use an attack that exceeded the opponent's calculation amount, she would not be able to attack. Even the nuclear bomb attack had no effect. Was she going to make an attack more powerful than the nuclear bomb? How could that be possible? Compared to her sister, who was gradually falling into despair, the stronger brother glanced at the two clones of himself and his sister who were sent dozens of meters away by him, and cast a solemn gaze on Accelerator. He had no other options. Why aren't you talking? Are you too scared to move? Oh my, I'm not a murderer. Accelerator raised his head slightly, looking down at the two of them with a superior's gaze. Besides, weren't you the ones who contributed your DNA profile? You were deceived. You were deceived. They didn't say they were going to use it for this. Misaka Mikoto, who had been exposed to the dark plan earlier and had not been redeemed by the leader in the original work, had already stepped half a foot into the abyss of despair and guilt. Accelerator's words were the final push that pushed her into the abyss. Being cheated? How is that possible? Accelerator sneered, as the third top electromagnetic ability user. You didn't even know about the plan that has been going on for nearly 10 years, drowned by the hot water in the greenhouse, or scalded to death? You haven't been cloned, you murderer. The warmth brought by Misaka Mikoto's tightly clenched palm did not help Misaka Mikoto recover from her cold spiritual world, just like the flame brought by a match could not save the little match girl. No? Accelerator scratched his ears. Why not, since you have been cloned? Why? Misaka Mikoto looked at the other party with eyes full of despair. At this moment, a ball of sandy yellow energy ray shot from the left and hit Accelerator. Chapter 98. Have you? The male protagonist with thick eyebrows and big eyes, Also betrayed the revolution and wore a skirt. Clone? Of course, I have been cloned before. Those psychopaths in white coats have come up with a plan to mass-produce superpowers. The first target is, of course, myself, who has reached the pinnacle of superpowers in Academy City at level 5 when I was a child. When Accelerator, who was a little excited and expectant, found that the research institute did not exist. Those clones based on me died not long after they were cloned due to physical weakness and organ failure. They are the same as me, but also different. My body is weak, and those clones are even weaker than my already weak body. Because they only have level 2 abilities, they cannot make the clones immune to various diseases like me. Speaking of which, how did you solve the problem at that time? Oh, by the way, after knowing that I was cloned, I ran to kill 2 directors and the problem was solved. Later, 2 new directors were promoted to the position of the board of directors. Why did I think of this? Accelerator suddenly opened his eyes. The huge computing power accurately told Accelerator that his head was attacked. After fainting for half a minute, he woke up. In the sky, a sand-yellow dragon, which reflected a light glow under the moonlight, was flapping its wings and flying in the air. What attacked me? What about the launch? What about the reflective armor that was set to reflect by default? Why is there no reflection? Qin Ren on the roof, although he had expected it, still felt a little surprised when it was realized. As a reward for defeating Accelerator, Qin Ren looked at the D-level yellow sandbag in his inventory and felt dazed. Really? I got it. How could it be so easy? It felt a little unreal. And beside him, Tsutamikato Sanaharu. Her beautiful eyes were looking at the desert dragon flying in the sky and Accelerator who had just opened his eyes on the ground. That is, Accelerator, right? Why? That person's ability is not able to reflect all abilities. Wait, ability? If it's not ability, but magic. Tsutamikato Sanaharu felt that he had found a breakthrough, both for Accelerator and Izir. If Accelerator's ability can't reflect magic, then Tsutamikato stared at Qin Ren, although he didn't say anything. But his suspicion was growing. Izir, maybe he is really a magician, a unique magician? You got 1837 yellow sand gold coins, you got 1 E-level certificate. 1837, 62% of the momentum value, that is, 1,134 coins were opened. The minimum guarantee is 1,000. Forget it. 2,385 gold coins. 1,000 points plus 10 G-level certificates can upgrade 1 attribute or 1 skill, and the remaining 385 can be accumulated to 1,000 to upgrade another skill or attribute. First upgrade the Blood of Shurima to F level, then the Magic Power Mana Limit and Mana Recovery. He can do it by himself, and the cloth armor is not important. After upgrading the Blood of Shurima, you can first exchange the sand arm and the ghost mask. The ghost mask is of course not to be mentioned. 35% extra magic power and 35% extra health, as well as 15% spell penetration, to some extent, is the best choice when there are extra gold coins. However, according to the previous situation that there will be a period of trance after obtaining skills, now is not a good time to exchange skills or upgrade. At this time, from the diffuse vision of the desert dragon, or the Corona dragon, Accelerator's actions were observed. The opponent cast his sights on the Corona dragon in the sky and launched an attack. No matter what method you use to bypass my reflection, there will be no second time. The exaggerated facial expression and the voice distorted by anger really reflected Accelerator's anger. Accelerator, who was half lying on the ground, clenched his right hand into a fist and knocked the ground. The powerful computing power of the LV5 Esper allowed this complicated calculation mapping to be completed in an instant. The concrete road surface that had already broken apart under his feet exploded again. Huge concrete blocks flew up in an instant, like boulders thrown by a catapult, and hit the body of the Corona dragon. Concrete shells filled with the anger of Accelerator flew into the sky one after another. Although Qin Ren's operation was quite good, facing the continuous cluster shooting of dozens of shells, he only dodged 3 and was hit by the 4th boulder. After the Corona dragon had one wing shattered, the boulders that flew in succession completely crushed the desert dragon. TSK. A telekinetic ability user? Where did you hide? Accelerator looked at the desert dragon that exploded in the air and shouted with his teeth bared, "Wait a minute, a telekinetic ability user?" As if remembering something, Accelerator turned his head and looked in the direction he had just come from. The woman with a strange ring-shaped machine on her head just now, her name was Yuang Wen or something. Wasn't she a telekinetic ability user? "I found you, bastard." Adjusting the direction of gravity, converging, and giving it new forms and properties, Accelerator's body flew up out of thin air and flew towards the location of Yuang Wanhua. On the other side, Yuang Wanhua, who had discovered Accelerator's existence and temporarily stayed put to observe the situation, suddenly felt cold all over. "Accelerator, why did you suddenly rush towards her?" At this moment, Qin Ren looked at the destroyed Corona Dragon, blinked, and the mana in his body surged again. With the consumption of mana, the body of the desert dragon condensed again. The yellow sand tower, as the core, also condensed in the body of the desert dragon again, forming the Corona Dragon. After the Corona Dragon condensed and appeared, Qin Ren discovered that Accelerator was flying in another direction, and his target was not him. What's going on? After taking a close look at the girl with the strange machine on her head, Qin Ren did not find a similar target in his memory. But at this time, Qin Ren saw the scene where the woman had to use her ability when facing the aggressive Accelerator. A truck in front of her was moved sideways by some force and blocked in front of her, although the car was destroyed by Accelerator the next moment. However, such an action telekinetic ability user? Qin Ren cast his eyes on the Corona Dragon flying in the air. Could it be that Accelerator regarded that girl as the culprit who controlled the Corona Dragon's attack? Mixed feelings. But wait, at this time, Qin Ren suddenly discovered that the girl who used telekinesis used fire again. Wait, telekinesis? Fire? Qin Tigu's lackey, LV4 telekinetic ability user, Yuang Wanhua, a person who can use telekinesis to perform operations such as invisibility, ignition, electronic operation, and silence. You, a male protagonist with thick eyebrows and big eyes, also betrayed the revolution and wore a skirt. Chapter 99 Ascension Bloodline. However, at this time, compared with other things, he wanted to find a place to hide and upgrade. Looking at the two brothers who were about to take Dali and another clone of the brother, and the supermarket clerk who looked like Shoka Misaki's worker bee, and then looking at the silent Taguro Sanharu beside him, Qin Ren immediately said, "Taguro, I'll go check the situation." He didn't say where to check the situation, nor did he say what to check. Without waiting for Taguro to answer, he turned and left. The Corona flying dragon in the air was temporarily maintained, and Qin Ren rushed into the 26th or 25th floor along the stairwell. Relying on the diffused vision, he found a corner in the dark floor that exuded a burnt smell due to the deflected lightning just now, and then turned on the system. "Shurima, your emperor is back," as he muttered to himself. A translucent panel like a sand painting emerged in his consciousness. Behind the panel, a huge sand table filled with magnificent momentum, formed by the condensation of yellow sand, emerged like the sun. As he opened the interface, 5 small sun disks flew out from the middle. Qin Ren opened the personal interface in the middle without hesitation. As the sun disk disintegrated into yellow sand, Qin Ren's personal information interface was condensed by the yellow sand. Blood talent middle. Shurima blood, G. Are you sure to consume 1000 yellow sand gold coins and 10 G level certificates to upgrade blood talent middle. Shurima blood from G2F. Yes/no. Yes. Bounty, 2385 yellow sand gold coins, 1385, G level certificates, 40, 30. Along with the consumption prompt, a dry hot wind rolled up in his consciousness. The familiar huge sun disk floating above the ruins in the middle of the endless desert appeared before his eyes. It was a strange feeling. Qin Ren once again cast his eyes on his body. Just like before, he appeared in the yellow sand space as a half-eagle, half-human consciousness similar to Ezra's form, and gravel was still swirling around him. However, the difference was that he felt that his connection with the collapsed ruins and the sun disk had become closer. More importantly, the ruins were rising. Wherever his sight touched, There would be buildings rising from the underground of the yellow sand space filled with endless gravel. Around the sun disk, the ruined city buried in the gravel shook off the gravel that had covered it for who knows how many years and rose to the ground again. The sun disk floating in the ruined city also rose a little. Dozens of buildings that I didn't know whether they should be called temples or houses rose from the ground again to welcome the sun. However, the buildings that rose up were still very sparse. At this time, Qin Ren could feel an inexplicable force lifting his body into the air. The overflowing light from the huge sun disk shot towards his body, penetrating him, blending with his existence, and injecting the sacred power into him. This half-eagle, half-human consciousness became more and more solid. The palms and claws that could only be seen with blurred edges before now seemed to have many more details. Wanting more power. When Qin Ren was immersed in the feeling of this power increase, the sunlight gathered by the sun disk stopped. Qin Ren recovered from this trance and opened his eyes. In front of him was not the yellow sand space, but a dark building. Raising his hand, Qin Ren subconsciously operated his newly increased power. Easier, more refined, and more powerful. Qin Ren easily peeled off the particles on the surrounding walls and combined the desert dragon and the yellow sand tower to form the corona dragon. The difference is about 5 times. After a brief feeling, he could now control gravel weighing 5 times as much as before, that is, gravel with a maximum total weight of about 750 kilograms, and he could also exert a force equivalent to 750 kilograms through the gravel, maintaining the sand for 5 times as long as before. One more thing. Qin Ren turned his eyes to his system and looked at the Shurima blood column. Bloodline talent middle. Ascension bloodline. F. Able to control small solid particles around, manipulate them to move and change. The higher the mana and magic power, the stronger the control and the number of controlled particles, the greater the consumption of the farther the distance. The normal power is 0.5 F, etc. Affected by magic power, the maximum additional magic power is 0.5 F, and when there is sunlight, it will gain a slight increase. Why is it called Ascension Bloodline, not Desert Emperor? Qin Ren didn't know. There was no bloodline nor anything like that in his settings, and he didn't know what was going on with this thing. Will the name continue to change after the upgrade? He didn't know whether it would. Now it seems that his choice to upgrade this bloodline is correct, but after upgrading the bloodline, all aspects related to controlling gravel have improved. There is one more thing. The attributes on the panel have also changed. Real name, Qin Ren. Race, descendant of God. Bloodline, ascending bloodline. Attributes, health, 100% 2G, health regeneration /5S, 1% 2G, armor, 2G plus 45% G, attack power, 2G plus 40% G, attack speed, 2G plus 60% G, mana, 60% 5G, mana regeneration /5S, 1% 5G, magic power, 5G, magic resistance, 5G, movement speed, 2G, attack range, 1050 yards, critical hit rate, 1%, momentum, 62%. It can be said that it has been fully strengthened. Speaking of which, even the flesh has been strengthened. Why, now, let alone one yellow sand soldier, even 5 of them will do. There is one more thing, the ghost mask and the sand monster. Just when Qin Ren, the Moonlight Party, was about to exchange the sand monster wrist and the ghost mask, the yellow sand tower and the body of the Corona dragon, the expanded vision found Flanta and her group. They are downstairs in this building. Why did they run over here? Shouldn't they be on the other side? After carefully looking at the situation, the female version of Yu Wang Wanhua had been knocked to the ground by accelerator, and her life or death was unknown, but according to the system's judgment, she was still alive. And after accelerator knocked her over, I don't know, I found, but didn't chase after Sister Pao and Brother Pao, but went in another direction. Wait a minute, is it the props group chasing Sister Pao and the others? After observing the situation, Qin Ren fell into a puzzle again. How long did his upgrade process take? He thought it was like exchanging skills before, and it took more than 10 seconds, but now it took at least 5 minutes. It seems that next time, I have to confirm that it is safe before upgrading. However, now, we can sneak attack the group of people with the props and knock them out. After all, my G is also level 5, and she will give him a D-level bag-like accelerator, right? Qin Ren acted immediately. Chapter 100. Qin Ren looked at the props who were talking under the building. Without any hesitation, he used his fully improved strength to control the sand to launch an attack. Mugi. They can't run away. Takotsubo Riku ate another body crystal, actively induced the ability to run wild, and tracked the AIM force field that had already recorded Dolly and Zero. The boy next to him, Kinata, pulled his hood. Takotsubo's ability is very powerful. As long as they are capable, they can't avoid being tracked, as long as the AIM force field is remembered. Even if they run to the other side of the earth, they can't run away. Yeah. Frenda immediately followed up. Hurry up and finish the mission. Accelerator not only is the target related to the lightning winds, but they also met Accelerator, the number 1 in the academy. What's there to be afraid of? My Yi Shenli snorted. You all saw what happened just now, right? The first one was knocked out by a level 4 ability user, and the first one was killed by a telekinetic ability user. My Yi, you should not underestimate Accelerator. The young man Kinata raised his hand. The calculation mode of my ability nitrogen armor is super from Accelerator. This calculation mode is super powerful. Okay, I get it. My Yi Shenli impatiently stopped the young man Kinata from continuing to talk. I don't have the idea of fighting the demon. Although she said that, she did not underestimate Accelerator. She was just wondering how the telekinetic ability user just now avoided Accelerator's default reflective armor. At this time, Flanta seemed to remember something and said, My Yi. My Yi Shenli turned his head and looked at her. What's wrong? I just met an ability user who can control metal. Metal control is also a telekinetic system, right? Flanta, who is not an ability user, asked. At this time, the boy next to her, Kinata, who was also a top student, whispered, Is it the ability to change the shape of metal? No, it's a blonde man who can make those black metal particles float. Flanta, who originally planned to take all the credit for killing the sniper, still told the story of Qin Ren, but she slightly modified the wording. After I killed the sniper with a bomb, a blonde man suddenly ran out and said that I stole his prey. It sounds more like your tone. Takotsubo Riku interrupted weakly. Can you control the floating of metal particles? My Yi Shenli twisted her chin with her right hand, frowning slightly. Maybe it's not the same person. At this time, she suddenly heard Flanta's voice. Yes, it's like this. Like this. My Yi Shenli raised her head and turned her gaze to Flanta with a little doubt, but she only saw Kinata and Flanta's doubtful and vigilant eyes, and the direction of her gaze. Behind her, Mugi. Be careful. When the two people warned in unison, a solid hand made of yellow sand slammed heavily on the back of her head. As soon as Mugi Shenli's vigilance and the thought of using his ability to defend himself arose, he felt his consciousness fading rapidly. Everything in front of Mugi was dark. The moment the young boy Kinata saw Mugi fall, he wanted to do something, but at this time, the screams of Flanta and Takotsubo Riku, one big and one small, also rang out at the same time. What made him more vigilant was that the nitrogen armor formed by copying Accelerator's default reflective armor was attacked and the feedback of the attack was transmitted to his brain, and the direction was behind his head, just like where Mugi was attacked. Without any hesitation, in addition to the calculation of the automatic defense armor, Kinata also began to actively control it. With his ability running, the nitrogen that accounted for 78% of the atmospheric composition instantly covered his whole body, especially the back of his head, with the nitrogen armor condensed into several centimeters. At this time, he also discovered that after knocking down Mugino, Flanta, and Takotsubo and failing to attack him, those particles condensed into fists again, and dozens of strange fists with night gauntlets in the game smashed towards him. Boom, boom, boom. Continuous knocking sounds rang out outside the body of the young man. Kinata, the nitrogen armor that automatically blocks almost all attacks will not be a problem even if it is directly hit by a sniper-level weapon. If it is a rifle-level impact, it can provide all-round defense at 360 degrees. In terms of defense, he is stronger than everyone in the props, and in terms of attack, the young Kinata waved his arm towards those monster hands, and the nitrogen condensed in a small area was transformed into his means of attack. All condensed together can achieve the powerful ability to lift a car, while sharing a part of the defense. The attack that can be caused is also enough to easily break the ground. But, unfortunately, the monster hands he faced were immune to any physical attack. The monster hands that were instantly smashed will be reassembled in the next second. As tricky as my own ability, this thought came to the mind of the young man. However, the opponent did not directly break through my nitrogen armor. I have to find a way to find the place where the ability user is and defeat him. And Qin Ren would certainly not use such a stupid method to keep attacking. This automatic defense is really amazing. It can't be broken by physical attacks. He couldn't even defeat the degraded version of Accelerator. The confidence and pride that had just risen because of defeating Accelerator were beaten back to their original form. But this is a good thing. Once you expand, you will be arrogant and easy to be overturned. Qin Ren, who remembered the lesson, immediately adopted another method. The attack of the defense tower cannot be avoided. I don't believe you can have a golden body. Beside him, the Corona flying dragon opened its mouth, and the sun disk in its body absorbed Qin Ren's mana and transformed it into a ball of sand yellow energy, aiming at the body of the young man, and then hit him in the chest. Bang! With a slight sound, the ball of sand yellow energy hit the young man's chest and the puzzled eyes of the young man. The pain from the heavy blow made him open his eyes wide, and he couldn't help but kneel down on the ground, holding his chest. However, the attack was not over. Another ball of sand yellow energy hit his head. In an instant, another E-level sandbag appeared in Qin Ren's inventory. This time I made a lot of money. I got another D-level sandbag and 2 E-level sandbags. Flanda, you are a G-level sandbag. Looking at the last sandbag in the inventory obtained from Flanda, Qin Ren couldn't help but complain in his heart. You took so many bombs, at least give me 2 G-level bags. P.S. Some people in the comment area have even more strange brain circuits. What do you mean by putting a two-dimensional book in the game category? It doesn't change that you are writing an anime harem article just because it's covered in a game skin. I didn't expect that there are still people writing on Kidian. Go to Filu to develop. I really don't understand. How did I offend this big brother? Every word is full of thorns. What I don't understand even more is the harem. Come to think of it, I've seen this kind of comment in the science fiction section before. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.